Chapter 460. When Han Fei won all 3 battles and was about to continue to challenge, many people retreated. Someone said, "Senior brother Fan, you are the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy. Why do you make things difficult for us? Let's just forget about this, okay?" The 2 girls from the Jade Fairy Palace also said, "Senior brother Fan, let's take our senior sister away, okay?" Han Fei clasped his hands behind his back and said mysteriously, "Cultivators must fight. Cowardice is the devil in their hearts. You don't understand, but I do. I can't let you regret it. So this battle must go on." Everyone, but Han Fei suddenly said, "Oh, by the way, junior brother, you also want to fight, but I won't take your sea-swallowing seashell." Huh? The disciple of the Grand Void Academy's face stiffened, and he felt wronged. Do I have to fight my own people? Han Fei secretly said to him, "Don't worry. Before I came out, Master told me. This time I must suppress the other sex, but I can't hurt them. What can I do? It's hard for me too." The disciple responded, "Senior brother, I understand you. All right, I'll make sure to put on a good show so that they won't find any flaws." Han Fei secretly praised him. "Junior brother, you are very thoughtful. When I return to the sect this time, I will definitely praise you in front of Master." The disciple of the Grand Void Academy was so excited that he almost shed tears of gratitude. On the surface, he had to act as if nothing had happened. However, his eyes were full of gratitude when he looked at Han Fei. Being suppressed by Han Fei, these people didn't know whether to run away or not. If they ran away, they would lose their prestige. If they didn't run away, it was obvious that they couldn't win. However, for the sake of face, these inexperienced disciples all chose to stay. So, 1, 2, 7. After a while, the 7 people left 7 sea-swallowing seashells. Only one junior brother from the Grand Void Academy didn't leave. Han Fei hushed him, then asked the hexagon starfish to put away the 6-gate formation. He put away the spirit forbidden net and looked at Gong Yuehan with a smile. "Sorry for offending you." "Shameless," Han Fei said seriously. "This is the way of cultivation. How can I be shameless? I, Fan Datong, am a magnanimous person. All I ask for is a clear conscience. You don't understand, but I do. You'll understand in the future." Gong Yuehan blushed and snorted. Her figure gradually faded away. When there were only the 2 of them left, Han Fei secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Junior brother, forgive me for my poor eyesight. What's your name?" "Senior brother, my name is Ji Wenshuan." Han Fei nodded lightly. "Why are you here alone? Where are the others from the Grand Void Academy?" Ji Wenshuan's eyes dimmed slightly. "Senior brother, our Grand Void Academy ran into the Mountain Sea Pavilion on the 188th floor this time and had a battle. At that time, more than a dozen of us went out. Later, a few more people left on the 197th, 198th, and 199th floors. In the end, only 5 people, and I entered the 200th floor. One of them was kicked out by Mo Fian, but I don't know about the others." Hearing this, Han Fei realized that he had sent out 2 of them, plus Ji Wenshuan in front of him. There should be 2 more. Han Fei nodded slightly. "Yes, the 200th floor is only suitable for you to cultivate. If you go to the 201st floor, I'm afraid it will be far more difficult than here. Don't go there rashly." Ji Wenshuan said, "Senior brother, why did you come alone? If you had come with us, you would have let a large number of people into the 200th floor." Han Fei sighed. "Of course, Master told me to do this. He said that if I led the team, you wouldn't get any experience, so he asked me to come alone. Furthermore, senior brother didn't come here just for a mere 200th floor. It is said that Chao Tian has probably broken through to the 250th floor at this time. By the way, have you seen Tango? When I was on the 199th floor, I had a fierce battle with him. This person was really strong and consumed a lot of my resources. Otherwise, I wouldn't have robbed others' sea-swallowing seashells." Hearing that Han Fei had a fierce battle with Tango, Ji Wenshuan was shocked. "Senior brother, did you meet Tango? Were you injured?" Han Fei shook his head slightly. "Not injured. However, this person is very strong. I tried my best, but I could only fight him to a draw. Alas." "What? Senior brother, You fought to a draw with Tengu? Han Fei pretended to be surprised. Fortunately, I barely fought to a draw. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to the 200th floor. By the way, have you met him? Ji Wenxuan was very excited. Just how powerful was his cheap senior brother? He fought to a draw with Tengu of the Heavenly Sword sect, defeated Gong Yuehan of the Jade Fairy Palace, and seemed to want to catch up with Chao Tian. Just this boldness alone was enough to make his mind ripple. Ji Wenxuan nodded. I haven't seen Tengu. This person has always been a loner, and others will only avoid him when they meet him. I'm afraid he has already reached the 201st floor, right? Han Fei didn't deny it and asked again, have you met Two Swords? I met him once on the 199th floor, and he seemed to have the little fatty of the Chao family with him. Ji Wenxuan's eyes lit up. Senior brother, have you fought with Two Swords? Han Fei shook his head slightly. No, I didn't have time to fight with him at that time, but this person's sword chi is very fierce. He should be a good opponent. Ji Wenxuan said, Senior brother, you can definitely win. Two Swords can't beat Tengu and Gong Yuehan. However, I haven't seen these two people. Han Fei complained in his heart. Why haven't you seen anyone? Then why do I need you? Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. Junior brother Ji, are there many people on the 200th floor now? I need to grab a batch of swallowing seashells. Where do you think I should go? Ji Wenxuan said in surprise. Senior brother, do you still not have enough swallowing seashells? Han Fei shook his head slightly. Once I enter the 201st floor, there will be very few people behind. Although I have some spares, I'm afraid they won't be enough for me to hold on for long. If I want to catch up with Chao Tian, I'm afraid I'll need more resources. Ji Wenxuan took out his swallowing seashells. Han Fei was tempted, but he wasn't sure whether this was a test or not. After all, it seemed a bit outrageous for a senior brother to rob a junior brother of his resources. Han Fei shook his head and said, Junior brother, I don't need your swallowing seashells. Tell me where the others are, and I'll go get them one by one. Ji Wenxuan couldn't help sighing. A master's words were really different. Although this senior brother was only an intermediate dangling fisher, he had witnessed his strength just now. He was so strong that he had no friends. It was only natural that he looked down on his swallowing seashells. Ji Wenxuan said, Senior brother, if you want to grab swallowing seashells, you can't go this way. With that said, Ji Wenxuan pointed to the left side of Han Fei and then said, there are a lot of people gathered there. Sun Mu and Mo Fian seem to be there. There are also a lot of people from the Heavenly Sword sect, the Death Door sect, and the Origin Returning Peak. Han Fei asked, Why are they all gathered together? Ji Wenxuan shrugged. Most people are making sacrifices and fighting with summoned creatures. As for Sun Mu and the others, they can enter the 201st floor, but I don't know why they stay here. Han Fei nodded slightly. Okay, I see. Then I'll grab it from the other side first. As for Sun Mu and the others, I'll meet them later. Ji Wenxuan was surprised. Senior brother, are you going to fight Sun Mu and the others? Han Fei smiled slightly. It's good to see them. If the Grand Void Academy wants to show off, we can't do without the help of these disciples from the big clans. Senior brother, you're so generous. You flatter me, junior brother. Han Fei thought for a while. Should I send Ji Wenxuan away? However, after thinking about it, he was not sure if there were still people from the Grand Void Academy. At that time, he could also use Ji Wenxuan as a cover, so he gave up the idea of sending him out. Han Fei said, Junior brother Ji, take care of yourself here. I'll go around the 200th floor first. Ji Wenxuan clasped his fists. Senior brother, be careful. Han Fei nodded. Junior brother, try your best. Han Fei walked in the direction with fewer people pointed out by Ji Wenxuan. As for Ji Wenxuan, who cared? When he came out of the steps into the sea, he would probably want to kill him. In fact, it was not Ji Wenxuan who wanted to kill him, but Gong Yuehan and the disciples of the major sects who wanted to kill him. The steps into the sea had been in an uproar. The people of the major sects in the Thousand Star City had all come out, not one or two, but a large number. When Gong Yuehan appeared on the steps into the sea, many people were stunned. Many people stopped doing business and came to watch. Ordinary people didn't know Gong Yuehan, but the disciples of the major sects did. Wow, impossible. Someone hurriedly shouted to Gong Yuehan, "Senior Sister Gong, did you come out for something?" Gong Yuehan was stunned. All the people of the major sects were here. Not a single family was left out, and there were all kinds of clothes. As soon as Gong Yuehan arrived at the shore, a female disciple of the Jade Fairy Palace ran over. "Senior Sister, we were cheated." "Huh?" The little girls chattered. "That Fan Datong is not the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy at all. He is a big villain, known as the Black and White Ghosts in the Level 3 fishery. He has done all kinds of evil and even cooked people. Now he is on the wanted list of the dragon boats." Gong Yuehan. After a moment, Gong Yuehan's face turned red with anger. Her jade-like hands clenched into balls, and she said in her heart, "Fan Datong, I'll remember you." Chapter 461. Han Fei didn't care what happened in the outside world. No matter what happened, it was none of his business. Let everyone hate Fan Datong. Originally, the reason why he designed the identity of Fan Datong was simply to sneak into the steps into the sea so that he could act at his convenience. Unexpectedly, he met the little fatty of the Chow family halfway, which not only allowed them to enter the steps into the sea safely, but also made a name for themselves. Then, Han Fei thought, anyway, the Black and White Ghosts have been corrupted, so I might as well kill all the people on the first 200 floors of the steps into the sea. At this moment, this second goal was almost achieved. Han Fei thought, in fact, I can already reveal my original identity. After all, no matter how strong the Black and White Ghosts were, their combat power would always be reduced if they couldn't use their real strength. This was particularly evident in Xia Xiaochan. Although Xia Xiaochan was also a heavenly talent without being a hunter, it was with the help of the majestic mystic spell. Once her energy was exhausted, she would have to return to her original self. At this moment, Han Fei rushed all the way. Oh no, all the way. He tricked the enemy, lured the enemy deep, and suddenly attacked them from behind. In addition to appearing in groups, Han Fei also needed to use his brain. Whenever he encountered a single person or a group of 2 people, he would directly go up and kill them. Of course, many people ran away, and some people directly squeezed flash stones to escape. However, most of them did not manage to escape. After all, everyone underestimated Han Fei, thinking that no matter how capable an intermediate dangling fisher was, he couldn't be that powerful. Then, the fact told them that even an intermediate dangling fisher could sometimes be very powerful. Until Han Fei met Mu Ling. Yes, Han Fei met Mu Ling. At this moment, Mu Ling was fighting with 3 disciples of the Death Door sect. When Han Fei saw this scene, his first feeling was surprise. According to Mu Ling's performance to Chao Qiu on the previous floor, she should be very powerful. Why did the people of the Death Door sect dare to fight against her? However, what surprised Han Fei even more was that Mu Ling, a spirit gatherer, was not at a disadvantage in the face of the pursuit and attack of a soul warrior, an armorist, and a hunter. This was what shocked Han Fei. Han Fei saw that Mu Ling pushed with one hand, and an array was pushed out by her. With a stomp of his foot, a defensive formation blocked several attacks. With a flick of his fingers, a killing array sprang up and directly trapped the armorist in it. Tisk, Tenga really knows how to pick a girlfriend. Han Fei attacked without thinking and shouted, 3 people bullying a girl? Is it appropriate? Let me have a taste of your strength. The hunter came out, looked at Han Fei, and couldn't help but sneer. You're from the Grand Void Academy, and an intermediate dangling fisher? How dare you meddle in other people's business? Han Fei smiled faintly. Do you know why hunters are called hunters? Because they were good at sneak attacks. But do you want to fight me head-on? With that, Han Fei rushed out, although the hunter disappeared in the next moment. But Han Fei's senses were not weak now. He didn't plan to kill the enemy in the first place. He just wanted to lure the enemy closer. In just 3 breaths, the 6-gate formation rose. Standing in the 6-gate formation, Han Fei chuckled. Look, you're definitely not a qualified hunter. Bang, bang, bang. He swept the hunter 3 times in a row. On the 3rd strike, the hunter was knocked to the ground by Han Fei. The embroidery needle pressed on him, and Han Fei snatched the sea-swallowing seashell. Just when Han Fei was about to hurt this person and then kick him out, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Don't touch him. Remove the purple formation. Han Fei. Han Fei didn't care whether he let one person go or not. Anyway, he had already snatched the sea-swallowing seashell. He wanted to see what Mu Ling was going to do. Because once he let Master Hexagon Starfish pull the six-gate formation, this hunter would definitely run away. Sure enough, when the six-gate formation was removed, the Soul Warrior suddenly retreated and cooperated with the Armorist, breaking the killing array in one fell swoop, and the three of them fled. Han Fei wondered, "You just let them go?" Mu Ling nodded lightly. "Let them go?" Han Fei asked why. Mu Ling smiled and said, "Tang Ge has to help you, but he can't help you too blatantly. Now, you let these three people go. At that time, because I was besieged and you saved me, you can pretend that Tang Ge owes you a favor. In this way, he will have a legitimate excuse to help you." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This woman, what a fast reaction. What a brilliant scheming ability. The time he took action just now was very short, no more than 10 seconds from beginning to end. In such a short time, she could create a favor because of this simple encounter. From this point alone, Han Fei knew that this woman was definitely not simple. She was a very smart person, giving him the feeling that she was a bit like Yang Ruyan. However, Han Fei still frowned and said, "It's a bit difficult. This favor can probably help Tang Ge restrain the people of the Death Door sect, but the others—" "No." Mu Ling shook her head slightly and said, "Don't underestimate this seemingly insignificant favor. Combined with Tang Ji's righteous character, he can at least help you restrain the power of 3 or 4 sect disciples. Even if he doesn't use it this time, as long as you fight against the sect in the future, he may be useful." Han Fei asked in shock, "So many?" Mu Ling smiled and said, "Of course, I'm not exaggerating. In fact, there weren't many disciples from the 7 sects in the Thousand-Star City who could enter the 200th floor. But as long as they entered, they were usually not too weak. However, compared with Tang Ge, the gap was still too big. So, assuming that there aren't many people from the 7 major sects, the two of us can even pin down more people." "Are there only 7 major sects in the Thousand-Star City?" Mu Ling nodded. "Not counting the small ones, there are only 7 big ones." Mu Ling looked at the uniform of the Grand Void Academy on Han Fei and couldn't help but smile. "I think you should have met them all." The people of the Grand Void Academy were almost all gone. At this moment, he was the boss of the Grand Void Academy. Tang Ge and Mu Ling represented the Heaven Sword sect, so the people of the Heaven Sword sect wouldn't interfere. The Sea Cloud restaurant was on the upper floor, and it had long been cleaned. Yu Xian, who was leading the team, had already gone out. There were probably not many people left. Gong Yuehan of the Jade Fairy Palace had gone out, so there shouldn't be any top masters left. Besides, Xia Xiaochan and 2 swords were still cleaning up those marginal people. In this way, the people of the 7 major sects seemed to have been dealt with at once. Han Fei chuckled. "Sister-in-law, why are you here? Didn't Tang Ge come to you?" Mu Ling's face suddenly turned red, as if she was shy when Han Fei called her sister-in-law. Seeing this, Han Fei couldn't help but laugh in his heart. It turns out that this girl likes Tang Ge very much. However, Han Fei couldn't see anything wrong with her for the time being. Just because she was smart, he couldn't think that she was scheming. Besides, since Tang Ge was with Mu Ling, he must have his own considerations. He believed that since an upright and righteous guy like Tang Ge took the initiative to choose a girl, this girl must have some merits. Mu Ling recovered quickly, although her face was still a little red. However, Han Fei could see that she seemed to be very happy. Mu Ling exclaimed, "Him? At this moment, he should be helping you clean up your opponents." "Huh?" Han Fei's face changed slightly. "Didn't I tell him not to act rashly?" Mu Ling shook her head slightly and said, "Since you were his best friend, you should know him. There are many people on the 200th floor, and he won't let you face so many people. So, he will definitely help you clean up some." Then Mu Ling added, "Don't worry. On the 200th floor, almost all the people are from the big clans and sects in the Thousand-Star City. It's common for people to compete for resources. Especially Tango. He has more reason to compete for resources, because everyone thinks that he can definitely go deeper. However, the deeper the layer, the greater the amount of sacrifice required. It's natural for him to rob others. Hearing Mu Ling's words, Han Fei was immediately relieved, and then he smiled foolishly. Sister-in-law, don't worry. When I see him, I will definitely give him a good lecture for you. There is such a beautiful woman here, but instead of looking for her, he went to fight. That's outrageous. Ha! Mu Ling couldn't help laughing, and then she blushed slightly and said, If you go to the Thousand-Star City in the future, I will help you. If you encounter any trouble, even if he doesn't help you, I will. Chapter 462. Mu Ling didn't go with Han Fei. She didn't seem to care about being besieged. Han Fei could see that she was confident. Just now, she faced the siege of 3 people calmly and methodically. Judging from her posture, Mu Ling must have some trump cards. Han Fei didn't force her. After all, he was not familiar with Mu Ling. Whether this woman was capable or not remained to be seen. Thus, the two of them simply chatted for a while before going their separate ways. Han Fei continued to rob. After less than half an hour, Han Fei came to the end of the road. Next, Han Fei randomly chose a direction to kill. After less than half an hour, he met Xia Xiaochan. When he saw Xia Xiaochan, she was fighting with 3 independent cultivators who were not from major sects gloomily. Because it was not good to expose her identity as a hunter, Xia Xiaochan's strength could not be fully released. Therefore, she was also quite depressed at the moment. Seeing that Xia Xiaochan didn't use the majestic mystic spell, Han Fei knew that she had probably used up the energy stored in her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been fighting for so long against these 3 independent cultivators. Swish, swish, swish. Before Han Fei arrived, the spiritual energy arrow had been shot out. In the sea, 3 spiritual lights flashed. Who are you? Huh? From the Grand Void Academy? Brother, why are you attacking us? The 3 people hurriedly retreated. Han Fei's embroidery needle had been thrown out, and the long rod broke through the water and directly hit a person's turtle shield. With a bang, the shield was broken and the person was knocked over. Xia Xiaochan took him by surprise and added another strike, immediately knocking down another person. The last person reacted in time, crushed a flash stone, and fled. After collecting the 2 swallowing seashells, Xia Xiaochan didn't speak and just snorted angrily. Han Fei waved his hand in front of Xia Xiaochan's eyes. What's wrong? Why are you still so angry? Xia Xiaochan glared at Han Fei. I've run out of energy. How many spiritual fruits do I need? I've already eaten 20 spiritual fruits, and I can't hold on any longer. Han Fei. Master Hexagon, open the door. Let's eat hot pot. Eat hot pot. Inside the gate, Xia Xiaochan was really hungry and was wolfing down the food. Han Fei was amused. You can eat spiritual fruits if you want. After all, a random swallowing seashell can have dozens or even hundreds of spiritual fruits in it. Do we still need this? Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes at him. Why don't you try eating 20 spiritual fruits in one go? Han Fei paused. He seemed to have forgotten that not everyone could consume too many spirit fruits at once. Although a spiritual fruit was not a big deal for a dangling fisher now, it was not a big deal. However, eating too much over a period of time would cause one's aura to become unstable and the energy within one's body would clash. Needless to say, Xia Xiaochan must have eaten too many spiritual fruits and was feeling unwell. Han Fei smiled. How many did you rob? Xia Xiaochan bit off a large piece of sea cucumber and said, We only got 21. Why don't we transform back? I feel that if I use my hunter's ability, I can grab at least 50, maybe even more. Han Fei shook his head. Wait, if he really couldn't hold it in any longer, he would expose himself again. Otherwise, do you want us to be besieged by thousands of people when we go out? We have a disguise technique. What if they have a way to see through us? Besides, it's not easy to build up the reputation of the black and white ghosts. It would be a pity to lose it. Xia Xiaochan snorted. Then I don't care. You fight. and I'll watch from the side. The hexagon starfish nodded. I'll watch from the side too. Han Fei raised his head and said, "It's none of your business. Stop messing around." As he spoke, a large piece of sea cucumber meat in the cauldron flew into the air and was sucked in by the small black hole. Han Fei took out a large pile of sea-swallowing seashells and said, "Now the sea-swallowing seashells are almost enough. On the 200th floor, I've cleared 52. Plus your 21, there are 73. Plus some that Tengu and 2 swords have cleared. If too many people disappear, I'm afraid we'll be noticed soon." Xia Xiaochan muttered, "We have been noticed. There are fewer and fewer people now. Several times, I saw a team of 7 or 8 people. If I hadn't run fast, I wouldn't have been able to beat them." Han Fei chuckled. "This is only temporary. When we finish the 201st floor, there will be no one behind us." Xia Xiaochan pouted. "I don't care. I don't want to fight anymore." "You can fight if you want." Han Fei shrugged. Indeed, after reaching the 200th floor, it was getting harder and harder to fight. If it were before, he could beat them without the majestic mystic spell. But after reaching the 200th floor, once he encountered a lot of people, he would almost certainly have to use secret methods. Otherwise, even if he could beat them, the probability of them escaping was very high. Han Fei said leisurely, "It seems that it's time to prepare to break through to an advanced dangling fissure. When we finish the 201st floor, let's find a place where there is no one and start cultivating." Xia Xiaochan nodded. "I ate a bunch of fruits. I feel that I can make a breakthrough now." Han Fei wondered, "Have you reached the peak?" "No." "Then let's wait." After Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan came out of the 6-gate formation, the 2-person team started to farm sea-swallowing seashells again. But at this moment, Xia Xiaochan was no longer Xia Xiaochan. She had changed into a new face. The problem was that Xia Xiaochan didn't use the 1,000 faces technique at all. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan directly covered her whole body with the metamorphosis water. Immediately afterward, her appearance was changing, and so were her clothes. In the end, Han Fei watched Xia Xiaochan turn into a man. Han Fei's face was black. "That's too much. Can't you turn into a little girl? Why do you have to turn into a man to disgust me?" Xia Xiaochan snorted. "It's not easy to be suspected if I turn into a man." Han Fei turned his head away, trying not to look at her. Fortunately, they were at the bottom of the sea, and it was impossible to distinguish whether it was a man or a woman. Otherwise, tilting his head, Han Fei suddenly saw a strange man in front of him. More importantly, this guy was still pouting and asking for a kiss. "Puff, go away." Xia Xiaochan laughed. "Ha ha, I scared you to death." Han Fei, while the two of them were fooling around, they met 7 or 8 people. However, after wandering for nearly an hour, they only met 7 or 8 people, which was obviously abnormal. Either most people had gone to the center of the venue, or most people had been cleaned up. Han Fei wasn't sure if the number of people they had cleaned up was a lot. But in any case, there should be a lot of people in the center of the venue. Soon, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan met, 2 swords and Chao Qiu. When they saw Xia Xiaochan turn into a man, Chao Qiu was almost stunned. He repeatedly asked, "What the F***CK is this disguise technique?" In the end, Xia Xiaochan smashed Chao Qiu, flying with a rod. Only then did this fellow stop asking. 2 swords looked at Han Fei strangely. "So, you became the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy?" Han Fei asked, "Do you think so?" Chao Qiu gave him a thumbs up. "Yes, you can defeat Gong Yue Han, not to mention pretending to be from the Grand Void Academy. Except for the Heavenly Sword Sect and the Jade Fairy Palace, you can pretend to be anyone else." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Don't talk nonsense. There are many middlemen. What are you going to do?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "You have to take care of half of the people in the middle. Otherwise, we won't do anything." 2 swords, a cold man, couldn't help but laugh. "Him? Take care of half of the people?" Han Fei emphasized, "If you really can't do it, you can exclude the 7 major sections." "Why?" Chao Qiu, Xia Xiaochan, and 2 swords asked at the same time. Han Fei smiled mysteriously. "You'll know when the time comes. Now, Chao Qiu, how many can you beat?" Chao Qiu said mysteriously, "If I say I can beat 100, Do you believe me? After he proudly showed off, he found that the three of them had gone far away. Even after they left, Han Fei was still muttering, I hate braggers the most. Chao Chiu said, Hey, I'm not bragging. Han Fei said without looking back, Okay, if you're not bragging, then show us. At this time, Yang Diyu shouted in frustration. He didn't want to play with Sun Mu and the others anymore. Wait for Han Fei. God knew when Han Fei would come. He thought that instead of waiting foolishly here, he might as well grab some sea-swallowing seashells and rush all the way down. As for the sea-swallowing seashells in Han Fei's hands, let Sun Mu grab them. He was not familiar with Han Fei, but he was familiar with Sun Mu. When Sun Mu robbed Han Fei, he would rob Sun Mu. At that time, what could the Sun family say? However, after leaving the central area, Yang Diyu was depressed. Where are they? Why haven't I met a few people? Young master, there's no one. Shall we go to the next floor? Yang Diyu glanced at his two subordinates. The next floor? Can the two of you defeat the next floor? Suddenly, Yang Diyu's eyes lit up. Oh, we met people and 4 of them. We're in luck this time. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 463. When Yang Diyu rushed towards Han Fei with his 2 subordinates, Han Fei and the others also rushed towards Yang Diyu and the others. Both sides felt that it was really not easy to meet these people. So, no one wanted to let the other go. After a moment, when Yang Diyu saw Chao Chiu, he immediately said excitedly, Come on, it's Chao Chiu. This guy is full of treasures. Rob him. Young Master Wang is also here. Yang Diyu said disdainfully, 2 swords can't do it. My big axe can make him cry. As for the one from the Grand Void Academy and the Independent Cultivator, I'll leave them to you too. Yes, young master. When Chao Chiu saw Yang Diyu, he hurriedly said, Not good, it's crazy Yang. Run. However, before Chao Chiu started to run, Han Fei grabbed his belt. Don't run when you see someone, okay? Yang Diyu is just a fool. Leave him to me. With that, Han Fei asked the hexagon starfish to hide in his clothes. God knew if Yang Diyu had noticed Master Hexagon Starfish at that time. At this critical moment, Han Fei didn't want to screw up on such a small detail. Wang Zetian asked, You want to fight Yang Diyu? Han Fei shrugged. Of course. You guys just need to get rid of his 2 subordinates. Wang Zetian didn't refute. If he didn't have to deal with Yang Diyu, even if he was alone, he could easily take them down. So Wang Zetian said, 100 seconds is enough. Hearing this, neither Han Fei nor Xia Xiaochan responded at all. Wang Zetian also frowned in confusion. Isn't this speed fast? Why aren't you surprised? If Wang Zetian knew that Han Fei only used 3 moves against Gong Yuehan, how would he react? At this moment, he saw Yang Diyu rushing over with a whoosh. Although the black crystal axe was gone in his hand, he had replaced it with 2 axes that were not weaker than the black crystal axe at all. On the blades of the axes, there was a cold light. On the other side, Han Fei, carrying the embroidery needle, also sped up, confronting Yang Diyu. Idiot from the Grand Void Academy, get out of here. I heard that Crazy Yang's double axes are invincible. Let me teach you a lesson today. Hey, you're asking for it. Of these 2 people, one was chopping with 2 axes, and the other was thrusting with a long stick. Originally, in Yang Diyu's mind, it was a fight. Of course, close combat was the most exciting and refreshing. He liked the feeling of the axe wreaking havoc. However, when the rod and the axe collided, Yang Diyu felt a huge force coming from the rod. And not bad. Come again if you have some skills. Clang clang. Yang Diyu chopped 3 times consecutively, creating ripples. Han Fei, on the other hand, was different. He was forced back by Yang Diyu's attacks, but he was still shouting, Madman Yang's twin axes are nothing more than this. How could Yang Diyu endure this? Then he slashed again. Unfortunately, in the process of his slash, 6 rays of purple light soared into the sky. At this time, Han Fei slammed him into the 6-gate formation with all his might. Spirit Forbidden Net. Chao Chiu hurriedly ran over and began to cast a net at the 6-gate formation. Young Master. Bastard. Shameless. In the 6-gate formation, Yang Diu suddenly shouted angrily. The twin axes rotated, blasting the seawater backward, so that the spirit-forbidden net couldn't cover it. Han Fei said angrily, "Chao Qiu, what the hell are you doing? Can't you protect me?" Chao Qiu, immediately afterward, Han Fei's face changed slightly, but he saw Yang Diu's momentum suddenly soar, almost instantly breaking through the realm of a dangling fisher and reaching the realm of a hanging fisher in one fell swoop. Opening the way with one axe, clang crack, the hexagon starfish was horrified. Not good, he is so strong. The six-gate formation can't stop him. Han Fei also widened his eyes. Is this lunatic so fierce? But as soon as the axe passed, Yang Diu shouted again. The second axe determines the universe. Crack. In Han Fei's astonished gaze, the six-gate formation suddenly broke. This was definitely the first time. This was the first time that the six-gate formation was broken. Was the hexagon starfish not strong? No, absolutely not. This six-gate formation was the hexagon starfish's special skill. Even the six-gate formation was broken. It could be seen how strong Yang Diu's strength had been at this moment. Chao Qiu shouted, "Oh my god! You hold on. I'll retreat first." The hexagon starfish shouted, oh no, I'm injured. My six-gate formation has been broken. I want to go home." Han Fei's face darkened. "Shut up, all of you. I'll teach him a lesson now." Yang Diu's face was red at this moment, and he was looking at Han Fei fiercely. "Shameless thief from the Grand Void Academy. I didn't want to kill you. However, I don't like you now. Go to hell." 3 axes to decide life and death. When the third axe appeared, both Han Fei and Xiaochan froze for a moment. It was a huge crab with a phantom span of 50 meters, and its 2 big pincers were like 2 battle axes. Name Crazy Axe Crab. Yang Diu's spiritual beast. Introduction: a rare deep-sea demon crab. When the Crazy Axe Crab grows up, it can be called the Crab King. In its peak state, it can crush mountains and break seas. It has amazing defense and terrifying destructive power. Most of them are deep-sea demons. Level 36 quality legendary contains spiritual energy greater than 2,856 points. Food omnivorous combat skills. Crazy Axe 7 styles contains soul power 888. Remarks: Mutation Xiaochan said to Han Fei via voice transmission. It looks like the crab that appeared in the big fish tide in the heavenly desolation city. Han Fei's face darkened. Before, he had always wondered why Yang Diu was able to bully Mo Fian and Sun Mu. It turned out that although this guy was an idiot, his combat power was really amazing. Based on his combat style alone, he was afraid that the disciples of the major sects who had never seen the world would be no match for him at all. Majestic mystic spell. I'll send you to heaven with one blow. Han Fei didn't understand why these people shouted those fancy words when they were fighting. Did you make them up? I can make them up too. The embroidery needle in his hand became dozens of times thicker in the blink of an eye. Han Fei held the embroidery needle with both hands as if holding a large pillar and smashed it head-on at the big axe that seemed to be splitting the sky and the earth. Rumble. On the other side, Wang Ziqian's eyelids twitched. What the hell is this bastard doing? He's so strong. It wasn't obvious when Han Fei was fighting Tengu. The power of their battle was very great, setting off billowing ripples. It was really difficult for others to understand how strong they were. The battle between Han Fei and Yang Diu could be described as a fierce fight between bandits. After a collision, ripples broke out endlessly. Where the two of them were, the seawater was quickly emptied and quickly filled up, causing 2 huge vortexes to spin rapidly. Yang Diu was smashed hundreds of meters away, and Han Fei also flew back hundreds of meters. Yang Diu was bleeding from his eyes, nose, mouth, and both arms drooped. Han Fei's hands were trembling, and the embroidery needle was inserted into the ground, unable to be lifted. At that time, Han Fei cursed in his heart. The majestic mystic spell's 5-fold combat power was only a tie with Yang Diu. Yang Diu's third chop was dozens of times stronger than the previous 2. Yang Diu's excitement at the beginning also disappeared at this moment. Are you King kidding me? Is he a disciple of the Grand Void Academy? If you told me that he was a disciple of the Mountain Sea Pavilion, I could barely believe it. But you told me that he was from the Grand Void Academy? I don't believe it. Yang Diu immediately shouted angrily. Who the hell are you? You are definitely not from the Grand Void Academy. Han Fei responded, I am the direct disciple of the Dean. How can you make up stories about me? Yang Diu scoffed. Bullsh *T. How can the Dean of the Grand Void Academy have a direct disciple? He has never accepted a direct disciple in his life. Little thief, you pretend to be a disciple of the Grand Void Academy. Just wait to be killed by the people of the Grand Void Academy. Han Fei bit the bullet and said, Bullsh *T. Who's my master? Does he need to ask you to accept a disciple? Yang Diu said, when I go back this time, I will ask him in person. Han Fei scoffed. Do you think I am afraid of you? Yang Diu shouted. If I hadn't been in a hurry just now, I would have chopped you with my axe. Han Fei sneered. If I hadn't been prepared just now, I would have poked you from the 200th floor to the 300th floor with my rod. Yang Diu scoffed. Poke me then. Then come closer to me. Everyone, Chiu scoffed. Come on. Han Fei scoffed. Shut up. Can I take a break? Yang Diu nodded. Yes, shut up. Chiu. Han Fei was thinking at the moment, no. He had underestimated Yang Diu. He was too ferocious. Back then, Yang Rian knocked him to the ground with a finger. His full strength strike, which was 5 times his combat power, was only evenly matched with his opponent. Han Fei secretly said to the starfish, Master Hexagon, use the 6-gate formation again. The hexagon starfish struggled with its tentacles. I can't. I'm hurt. Han Fei was speechless. It's not a big wound. I'll treat it for you later. Before the hexagon starfish responded, Two Swords said to him, I'm very fast. Stall Yang Diu. Hearing this, Han Fei pulled out the embroidery needle again and blasted it at Yang Diu. Yang Diu was stunned. He couldn't believe it. He recovered so quickly? Isn't this King fast? Young master, run. Yang Diu frowned. Me? Run? With so many people watching, you want to run? Young master, don't fight him. We can't hold on any longer. Yang Diu shook his head. No, I haven't admitted defeat yet. 7 strikes of wild axe. Chapter 464. In an instant, the 2 axes swept across the sky, and the crab claws chopped like divine axes falling from the sky. At the other end, the big stick as thick as a tree trunk was held in Han Fei's arms and waved like a flaming wheel. Bam! Han Fei and Yang Diu were sent flying backward again. This time, Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. Yang Diu's 2 axes almost fell from his hands. He couldn't hold them anymore, so he simply put them into his body. Cough, cough. Yang Diu shouted, Son of a B***, who the hell are you? You are definitely not from the Grand Void Academy. Han Fei scoffed. Go back and ask yourself. I don't want to argue with you. Han Fei's hands were shaking like Parkinson's. However, he didn't care whether his hands were shaking or not at this moment. Fighting was all about momentum. Running out of strength, he jumped up and kicked at Yang Diu. Seeing that Han Fei was so fierce, the latter thought to himself, if I admit defeat, I won't be called Crazy Yang in the future. Immediately, he also jumped up and kicked with his feet. However, as soon as their feet touched, the 6-gate formation rose again. Yang Diu was furious. Shameless, you bastard. Han Fei laughed. All is fair in war, you idiot. Then Han Fei looked at Chiu. What are you waiting for? Throw the spirit forbidden net. Ow, ow, ow. Chiu hurriedly threw out the spirit forbidden net. This time, it covered Yang Diu tightly, and he was stuck in the center of the net. Han Fei kicked Yang Diu with his foot. What are you talking about? In the end, you will still lose to me. Yang Diu was furious. You cheated, you shameless bastard. Han Fei sneered. I'm afraid you don't know what the level 3 fishery is. I'll cheat you. Swish. Xiao Xiaochan landed next to Han Fei, glanced at Yang Diu, and pinched Han Fei's arm. You are still shaking. Han Fei curled his lips. This is just a hand movement. In fact, I can do it again. Yang Diu yelled, stop bragging. Do you want to use your feet? Come on, I'll use my feet. Look at my 1,000 stars, shadowless feet. After a series of kicks, Two Swords walked over with two swallowing seashells in his hands. Yang Diyu's two subordinates were still lying on the ground, groaning. They weren't geniuses, so they really couldn't hold out against such geniuses. After all, the prodigies of these great clans were all piled up with resources. Of course, his own efforts were also indispensable. Otherwise, the Thousand-Star City would be full of heavenly talents. Han Fei took out Yang Diyu's sea-swallowing seashell and snorted. You lost. I'll take your sea-swallowing seashell. Be smart and leave the steps into the sea. Yang Diyu was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. This was already the second time. After the first time, his sea-swallowing seashell was gone. After all, he didn't see how it disappeared. This time, he was so humiliated that his sea-swallowing seashell was taken away right in front of his face. He really could not tolerate this matter. When Chao Qiu was about to put away the spirit-forbidden net, Han Fei suddenly shouted, "Wait a minute!" Yang Diyu suddenly had a bad feeling. "What are you doing?" Han Fei went up and took off his clothes. Yang Diyu immediately looked frightened and said, What are you doing? We are all men. Let's talk it out. Don't take off my clothes." "Hey, Chao Qiu, you little be **starred. Stop him." Hey. Two Swords, son of a b** Tsich. As soon as he left the spirit-forbidden net, Yang Diyu immediately disappeared. Wang Zitian looked weird and murmured, "You have completely offended Yang Diyu this time." Han Fei said disdainfully, "I've already offended him. It doesn't matter." Chao Qiu rubbed his hands and said, "Two Swords, what do you think will happen if I spread the news that Yang Diyu was stripped in the Thousand-Star City?" Wang Zitian sneered. "He will come to your house with an axe. Even your brother may not be able to resist him." Chao Qiu shivered all over. "Then forget it." Oh, suddenly, Han Fei froze. **CK, I just wanted to take off his clothes and forgot to take off his axe. Chao Qiu was speechless. "Do you still want to pretend to be him?" Han Fei chuckled. "Yes, you found out. I do have an axe in my sea-swallowing seashell, but it's not as good as his." Wang Zitian shook his head. "Don't think about it. Whenever Yang Diyu fights, he always lets his big crab and big turtle show up. You can pretend to be him, but can your spiritual beast pretend to be his spiritual beast?" Han Fei froze and immediately threw Yang Diyu's clothes to the ground. "Then why should I strip his clothes?" Xiao Xiaochan picked up Yang Diyu's clothes and stuffed them into Han Fei's hands. "It's okay. You can't pretend to be him here, but you can still do it outside." Han Fei's eyes lit up. "That's right. Chao Qiu, Two Swords had a nagging feeling that something was wrong. Where did Chao Qiu find these two weirdos? Their combat power was so amazing. Was Yang Diyu strong enough? If he wasn't strong enough, he wouldn't have been called a lunatic. In the outside world, before Yang Diyu appeared outside, a spiritual weapon battle suit floated on his body. At this moment, his hands were still drooping. Yang Diyu was so angry that his face turned purple, and he said without looking back, "No one is allowed to tell anyone about this. Whoever says it, I'll kill him. Young master, we'll keep our mouths shut." Yang Diyu snorted. "I'm done. No, I don't want to stay in the steps into the sea, but I can't go back with my tail between my legs. That guy just now was definitely not from the Grand Void Academy. Send someone to wait here until he comes out." "Young master, where are you going?" Yang Diyu's face turned cold. "Where else can I go? I'm going to rob a few people first. I don't have any money on me." Han Fei didn't care about Yang Diyu at all. He was just glad that now he had one less opponent. However, Han Fei had a lot of thoughts at this moment. Yang Diyu was already so strong. Sun Mu and Mo Fian were both at the same level as him. How could they be simple? Yang Diyu alone made Han Fei's hands tremble like Parkinson's. If there were two more Yang Diyu, or even three more Yang Diyu, he wouldn't be able to resist them at all. Han Fei asked, "Chao Qiu, tell me, what's your solution? If Sun Mu, Mo Fian, and the other children of the big clans in the Thousand-Star City are so strong, let's not go to the central area. Let's just go to the next floor." Wang Zitian also frowned and said, "Chao Qiu, this is not a joke. It's almost impossible for you to kill them. You can't just drive the Go Speed Divine Boat and hit them, can you? Xiao Qiu said solemnly. I have a solution. Trust me. Xia Xiaochan said, Tell me your solution. Otherwise, who will believe you when you are so afraid of death? Han Fei nodded. Tell me the truth. Now, Han Fei felt that he had actually saved enough swallowing seashells. Although he also wanted to get revenge on Sun Mu, if 8 or 10 people like Yondu popped up, he wouldn't dare to hit them with his head, right? Seeing the 3 people's burning eyes, Chao Qiu finally compromised. Chao Qiu took out a few small bottles. Xia Xiaochan grabbed them. Just a few small bottles? Seeing that Xia Xiaochan was about to open them, Chao Qiu hurriedly said, No. Xia Xiaochan paused. What's in them? Why can't I open them? Chao Qiu hesitated for a long time and said, Inside are the ultimate weapons. Han Fei and the others. Chao Qiu explained, This is the poison of poisons I made from nearly 100 dragon boats in the entire level 3 fishery with thousands of spiritual herbs. It's called the Poison King. Xia Xiaochan's hand trembled, and she threw the bottle away. Han Fei grabbed the bottle and asked with bright eyes, How do I use it? Xia Xiaochan. Wang Zitian. Xia Xiaochan and Wang Zitian were speechless. Are you really going to use it? Seeing that Han Fei seemed to be quite interested, Chao Qiu immediately said excitedly, Well, let me tell you, it's awesome. Its value is even higher than that of the Ghost Speed Divine Boat. Let me tell you, just a single drop is enough to cause all living beings within a radius of 1,000 meters to vomit and have diarrhea for 7 days without stopping. Han Fei was so shocked that he almost threw the bottle in his hand away. Xia Xiaochan and Wang Zitian immediately took a few steps back, especially Xia Xiaochan. Don't open it. Don't open it. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed. That's really poisonous. Can you describe to what extent they will vomit and have diarrhea? Chao Qiu said proudly. I found a crab nest and tried it. In less than an hour, all the crab's shells softened. 1 day later, the shells were empty. Han Fei swallowed again. How much of this do you have? I have a tank. Chapter 465. Han Fei once felt that he had been shameless enough. He firmly believed that what he did was forced by the level 3 fishery. Therefore, when Han Fei killed and robbed, he told himself that this was the most basic law of survival. Until Chao Qiu's performance at this moment made him doubt this law of survival, and his understanding of shamelessness and despicableness rose to a new height. At this moment, Han Fei stared at Chao Qiu with bright eyes. Give me the vat. Chao Qiu. Xia Xiaochan quickly pulled Han Fei. Are you crazy? Why do you want so many of these things? Han Fei responded seriously. I don't know why, but I had a hunch just now. We wanted to enter the steps into the sea to find treasures, and I think this is the best. Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. Do you think this is a treasure? Han Fei said calmly. Isn't this a treasure? Xia Xiaochan looked at him leisurely. I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about the word treasure. Chao Qiu was also surprised. Why do you want so many of them? Han Fei raised his head. Do you think you have the ability to drop this thing on people without anyone knowing? That depends on your ability. Chao Qiu asked, Can I? No, you can't give me half of it. I'll help you kill those bastards. Chao Qiu took 2 steps back. He had a feeling that Han Fei was going to rob him of his power. However, Chao Qiu looked a little excited. Before, he felt that this invention of his seemed to be not very elegant. However, seeing that Han Fei seemed to like it very much, he couldn't help but feel a little proud. Chao Qiu said, I'll give you half of that. No more. I have other uses. Han Fei chuckled. Okay, then give me half of that first. After a moment, Han Fei said in high spirits, Let's go and meet Sun Mu and the others. This son of a bitch is too much. This time, I'm going to kill him. Wang Zitian said, Before you use the poison, you'd better tell me first. I'll go to the next floor. Xia Xiaochan also agreed. Yes, when you use it, tell me the profit. I'll run away in time. Chao Qiu said, Don't worry, I have an antidote that can reduce the pain by 90%. It's not about the antidote. At that time, the water will be filled with filthy and muddy things. You can keep it to yourself. Chao Qiu was taken aback and said in surprise, Ah, I forgot about this. Fan Da Tong. When you use it, tell me first. I'll go down too. Han Fei was speechless. Didn't you want to go with me just now? However, Han Fei didn't care. He could control water. So what if it was turbid? With his water control technique, no matter what kind of filthy excrement it was, it wouldn't be able to contaminate him at all. However, Han Fei frowned and asked, "Why reduce the pain by 90%? Chao Chiu explained, "It's mainly because I forgot the order of some of the materials in it when I was concocting it. As a result, after I concoct the antidote, it can only be more than 90% immune." Han Fei bared his teeth. This was too F***ing much. He could tolerate other people vomiting and having diarrhea. If he were to be infected by it, the experience would not be as good. Han Fei pondered for a moment. Let's go. The central area of the 200th floor was actually about 30 miles from the center point. About 200 people had gathered here, and they were still practicing here. That's right. These people weren't fighting or sparring with each other. Instead, they were fighting various summoned creatures. When they were still 50 miles away from the central area, Han Fei and the others had already felt wave after wave of shocks and ripples, rippling over. Han Fei could confirm that there were probably no less than 50 people fighting at the same time. When the four of them came to the central area, they saw 3 or 4 people fighting within a kilometer. Wang Zetian frowned slightly. There's so many people. How are you going to poison them? Chao Chiu wondered. It doesn't matter if it's the others. We just need to poison Sun Mu, Mo Fian, Li Baizhou, Li Hai, and Yi Baiyu. It's a pity that Chun Aochen has left. Otherwise, I would definitely take him with me. Wang Ziqian continued. Yi Baiyu is not on the 200th floor. If I'm not mistaken, he should be on the lower floors. As for which floor he is on, I don't know. Chao Chiu and Wang Zetian were discussing which people to deal with. Han Fei said, "Wait a minute, there are so many people here. It's impossible not to rob them. If we want to rob them, let's do something big. Killing all these people is the right way." Chao Chiu looked a little hesitant. That's not a good idea, is it? Chao Chiu looked at those who were fighting and those who knew nothing about it, and couldn't help but panic a little. What if these people knew about it in the future? Han Fei didn't care and went straight to the central area with the most poisonous poison and antidote. The arrival of the 4 of them inevitably attracted the attention of these people. However, unlike before, no one would run away here. Most people would subconsciously stay away from 2 swords when they saw him. When they saw Chao Chiu, they could still make fun of him. Chao Chiu, are you looking for a beating? Chao Chiu, your sister is not here. She may have gone to the next floor. Chao Chiu, what's wrong with you today? Li Hai and Li Baizhou are inside. How dare you go? Chao Chiu. Chao Chiu ignored these people and just looked at them with pity. All of you are a little too arrogant. Just you wait to cry in a moment. Han Fei wondered, do these people really get along so well with each other? Don't they rob each other? Wang Ziqian replied, independent cultivators will be robbed when they come here. As long as the disciples of the 7 major sects and the big clans don't go out of the central area, no one will rob them because there will always be someone to help them. Han Fei smiled. This was probably one of the benefits of those major sects and the big clans. Just by virtue of their identity, they could do things that countless people couldn't do. Suddenly, Han Fei saw 2 disciples of the Grand Void Academy swimming towards him. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and he said to the others via voice transmission, "Wait a minute, I'll deal with them." When they got closer, Han Fei found that it turned out to be Ji Wenxuan and another junior brother. "Senior brother, you're here." "Junior brother, I'm here." Han Fei raised his head slightly, put one hand behind his back, and looked at the other person. "Junior brother, how should I address you?" The other disciple of the Grand Void Academy was a little puzzled. After hearing Ji Wenxuan say that the dean had a very powerful last disciple, he was very suspicious. Why was it that no one in the academy had ever heard of such an awesome senior brother? However, because he heard from Ji Wenxuan that he had seen this senior brother severely defeat the heavenly talents of the Jade Fairy Palace and other sects, he couldn't help but suppress this suspicion. After all, if he could defeat someone like Gong Yuehan, he might really be a last disciple. Tian Yishan greets you, senior brother. Han Fei smiled and said, Junior brother Tian, nice to meet you. Then Han Fei looked at Ji Wenxuan. Why are you here? Is there anyone else in our Grand Void Academy? Ji Wenxuan shook his head. No, when I met Ishan, another disciple was robbed. The robber was Tang Ge, and Ishan escaped with the help of a flash stone. Han Fei frowned and looked at Ji Wenxuan. Did you meet Tang Ge? Tian Ishan replied. Yes, this person is too fierce. He swung his halberd all the way, and wherever he went, all the people caught by him were robbed. I'm afraid this person wants to break into the depths of the steppes into the sea this time. Han Fei asked, Where is he now? Tian Ishan replied. He has come for the other side. This person is so fierce that he clearly wants to rob a sea-swallowing seashell from the other side. Many people have gone to watch. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Let's go and have a look. Han Fei was speechless at Tang Ji's temper. Take it easy. I've come in with a different identity. You didn't even disguise yourself and directly came in with a halberd. What if you were beaten by the crowd? Suddenly, Chiu said, Good timing. There must be a lot of people watching. Let's hurry up and release the poison in crowded places. Of course, Han Fei also knew that this was a good opportunity, so they immediately sped up and rushed over. On the way, Tian Ishan also asked, Senior brother, where did you cultivate before? Why have we never seen you before? Han Fei answered casually, the unknown place. Besides, I'm not the only one, but most of them are dead. Wow, Tian Ishan was stunned. Is the unknown place a place that only dangling fishers can go? Ji Wenxuan was also shocked. He even imagined the scene of a group of heavenly talents fighting until only one of them was left. Han Fei didn't want Tian Ishan to ask again, so he said, Something big will happen here later. You two, either go to the 201st floor or the steps into the sea. Anyway, you can't stay on the 200th floor today. Ji Wenxuan and Tian Ishan looked at Han Fei. Han Fei smiled and said, You'll know in the future. Han Fei and the others were far away and felt the seawater hitting their bodies wave after wave. In the seawater, the sound of weapons colliding never stopped. When Han Fei arrived, he found that Tang Ge was fighting with two figures, one black and one white. Han Fei couldn't help but look at Xia Xiaochan. Who the F***CK is this? Chao Qiu explained, These are Li Hai and Li Baizhou, the twin brothers of the Li family. It is said that they can communicate telepathically. Their unparalleled combat techniques can make them among the top 10 in the Heavenly Sword sect. Han Fei knew that they were Li Hai and Li Baizhou. Their identities were all written on their clothes. Han Fei was not bragging, but if they walked into the steps into the sea with their identities, they might be mistaken for the black and white ghosts. At this time, on the battlefield, Tang Ji's halberd was slashing so hard that only dazzling knife light and rolling waves could be seen in the seawater, and no one could see his figure at all. Li Hai and Li Baizhou were particularly fast. The two of them were not hunters, but their speed was comparable to that of top hunters. Xia Xiaochan said, It's a bit like the shadow shrimps pursuing shadow. Their attack speed is too fast. If I don't teleport, I'm afraid I won't be able to win. Han Fei nodded slightly. It was indeed powerful. There was no doubt about that. These famous children of the big clans should not be easy to deal with. He didn't know how many people could withstand the crazy Yang to use pair of big axes. Suddenly, Tang Ji's halberd was thrust into the ground. With his body as the center, the area within a kilometer exploded. Li Hai and Li Baizhou were shocked back hundreds of meters by the power of the halberd. Li Hai said, Tang Ge, you're not weak in a one-on-one fight, but two fists are no match for four hands. Today, you robbed our people. We can't let you go. Li Baizhou said sarcastically, I've heard that Tang Ji's strength is comparable to Chao Tian's and his combat skills are comparable to Chen Aochen's. Why don't I see either of them? Li Hai said solemnly, Brother, you are wrong. He is indeed very strong. Li Baizhou said coldly, but he didn't show his combat skills. If that's all he has, he won't be able to beat us. While everyone was watching the battle, suddenly, a figure in red suddenly appeared beside Han Fei and the others. Han Fei took a closer look and found that it was none other than Mo Fian. Mo Fian twisted her body and landed in front of Chao Chiu with a bright smile on her face. Hey, sister, I was wondering who you were. It turns out to be our little Chiu Chiu. Little Chiu Chiu, your sister is not here. So are you here for me? Chao Chiu jumped behind two swords and Han Fei as if fleeing. I'm not here for you. I'm determined. Mo Fian, you can't tempt me. Ha ha. Why can't I tempt you? Is it because I'm not beautiful enough? Chao Chiu bared his teeth. You are far from it. You're not as good-looking as my sister. I can't like you. Mo Fian's face instantly changed, and she said coldly, say it again. I'm not as good-looking as your sister. I'll give you another chance to organize your words. Chao Chiu shrank his head. No. Just when Mo Fian's aura was rising, a sharp sword intent broke out from Wang Zetian's body. Wang Zetian shouted, Mo Fian, if you want to fight, I'm happy to accompany you. Mo Fian's aura suddenly dissipated a little. Hey, if you didn't release your sword intent, I almost didn't recognize you. Isn't this Wang Shower who only knows how to cry? Do you think you can protect little Chiu Chiu with your two swords? The two swords in Wang Zetian's hands were already in his hands, and his eyes were fierce. Say it again. Wang Shower, Wang Shower, Wang Shower, come on. Wang Zetian burst out in anger. In an instant, Chao Chiu was sent flying. Wang Zetian was surrounded by hundreds of swords, and the sword chi was like a tide. The others who were watching the fun all cast their eyes over. Sun Mu also took a step forward. He took a deep look at Wang Zetian, then glanced at Chao Chiu and frowned. Xia Xiaochan faintly burst out of her fighting intent and said to him via voice transmission, Is this the Sun Mu who has chased you repeatedly? Han Fei replied, No hurry. It's boring to fight with this kind of person. Even if you want to fight, it's not now. Because of Xia Xiaochan's fighting intent, Sun Mu took a special look at Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. Huh. Sun Mu's eyes fell on Han Fei, and he stared at him for a long time. Han Fei didn't avoid it, and also looked at Sun Mu coldly, without a smile on his face. As if attracted by their gazes, Mo Fian glanced at Han Fei and asked Sun Mu, Do you know him? Sun Mu moved his eyes away. I don't know him. However, these two people were brought here by Chao Chiu. Chao Chiu has been trying to kill us for a long time. Be careful. Mo Fian giggled. Little Chiu Chiu is just a glib talker. If he really wants to kill us, why doesn't he dare to fight us now? Sun Mu snorted. Don't underestimate him. Chao Chiu's aptitude is the best among all of us. Chao Chiu was saying to Han Fei via voice transmission, Hurry up and release the poison. I'm going to poison these two bastards. No, I'm going to poison all the bastards here. Han Fei glanced at Chao Chiu. You guys go to the next floor. I'll stay here. Xia Xiaochan shook her head. I'll go with you. Let little fatty go first. Chao Chiu shook his head. No, I want to see them vomit and have diarrhea. Of course. Han Fei ignored Chao Chiu, who was in a rage. Just when Tengu, Li Hai, and Li Baizhou were about to fight, suddenly, an unparalleled sword chi shot straight at Han Fei. On the battlefield, Tang Ji's eyelids suddenly twitched. Has Han Fei's identity been exposed? Han Fei was also very surprised. This stab came from Sun Mu. It came without any warning and caught him off guard. Han Fei pulled out the knife with one hand, and the soaring knife chi instantly shattered the sword chi, and then continued to chop at Sun Mu. Swish, swish, swish. Sun Mu used 3 sword strikes in a row, and the billowing spiritual energy exploded 3 times before he finally shattered the knife chi. In an instant, the surrounding crowd dispersed, leaving Chao Chiu and Han Fei alone. Among them, Ji Wenxuan and Tian Yishan's expressions changed drastically. They didn't know why Sun Mu suddenly attacked this senior brother. And what shocked Tian Yishan the most was that this senior brother of his was simply too powerful. Sun Mu had to use 4 sword strikes to barely defend against this casual slash. Not far away, Tang Ji's eyes also flashed. When he fought with Han Fei before, he didn't see Han Fei use a knife. Just now, that fleeting saber seemed to be even more powerful than his staff technique. Li Hai and Li Baizhou also looked at him and exclaimed at the same time, How is it possible that he is from the Grand Void Academy? Han Fei took a step out first and looked at Sun Mu arrogantly. Why did you attack me? Han Fei secretly swallowed. He just wanted to release a few drops of poison. But before he had time to release it, Sun Mu had already slashed at him with his sword. Han Fei frowned slightly. Did he notice that I released the poison? But it shouldn't be. How can a drop of water in the sea be detected? Seeing Sun Mu's decisive attack, Emofian couldn't help but look at Han Fei up and down, and then she also frowned slightly. Who are you? Sun Mu took a step forward, and the 5 or 6 subordinates behind him also seemed to be ready to take action. Han Fei grinned. I am Fan Datong from the Grand Void Academy. Nonsense. How can you be from the Grand Void Academy? Hey, don't pretend to be me. Bullshit. My Mountain Sea Pavilion is not far from your Grand Void Academy. Why didn't I know that there was such a strong master in the Grand Void Academy? Han Fei grinned. My master is the Dean of the Grand Void Academy. I, Fan Datong, have been silent for 3 years. Today, I will sweep the 6 academies and dominate the 7 major sects of the Thousand-Star City. You can't question me until you are qualified to stand in front of me. With that, Han Fei took 2 steps forward and looked at Sun Mu. So, why did you attack me? Han Fei's last sentence was quite domineering. The whole audience was silent. Chao Qiu even wondered if this guy was really the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy. Damn, he was so good at acting. Sun Mu frowned even more and secretly said to Emofian via voice transmission, I always feel that I have seen him somewhere. Emofian also put away her charming smile. He seems a little familiar. Is he really a peerless talent hidden by the Grand Void Academy? But this person is so domineering. I like him so much. Sun Mu rolled his eyes at Emofian. He still had some doubts in his heart. Why did such a strong person suddenly appear in the Grand Void Academy? So Sun Mu raised his sword. I don't like you, so I challenge you. When Sun Mu said this, many people were stunned, including Li Hai and Li Baijiu who were fighting with Tangu. The 2 of them put away their swords and looked at Han Fei curiously. Wang Zitian said to him via voice transmission, Sun Mu is a cautious person. Except for a few times, he has never taken the initiative to challenge others. Do you know him from before? Han Fei looked solemn, but he was very puzzled. Was it because the 1,000 faces technique was not real enough? Why did this guy challenge him alone in the crowd? However, in the face of challenges, Han Fei was not afraid at all. If it weren't for the support of the majestic mystic spell, Han Fei wouldn't have come to the 200th floor to fight with Chao Qiu. But now that he had the majestic mystic spell, he didn't care about Sun Mu and the others anymore. It seemed that the plan to secretly release the poison had failed. Han Fei smiled faintly. You like to fight? Many disciples of the major sects around were surprised. Others might not know, but they all knew it very well. Although they were all in the Thousand-Star City, and might even be in the same sect, they still knew the difference in strength between people. Ordinary disciples of the major sects might be outstanding, but in terms of resources, experience, cultivation methods, and combat skills, they were still far behind those disciples of the major sections. For some things, they didn't stand on the same starting line, so they could only rely on their talent. For example, Tangu was an exception. He was an existence that defeated all the heavenly talents with his strong talent. Now, this unknown Fan Datong was obviously not a disciple of a big clan, which meant that he was also a person who rose to fame with his talent. In Han Fei's mind, Tang Ji's voice transmission sounded, Sun Mu is not weak and is good at sword race. Are you sure you can defeat him? Han Fei responded, don't worry. Ask Mu Ling to seal the surrounding seawater. I'm going to release poison later. Don't be contaminated by it. Okay. Tangu was slightly surprised when he heard that Han Fei was going to release poison, but he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Anyway, he didn't have any feelings for these people present. Besides, Han Fei knew his limits and wouldn't kill anyone, so Tangu didn't care. Han Fei tapped his feet and swam to a place dozens of meters away from Sun Mu. I've long heard that your sword array is unparalleled. Today, I will fight you alone. Swish, swish, swish. Under everyone's gazes, Han Fei's momentum was rising at an extremely fast speed. To everyone's surprise, only Han Fei's momentum was rising and his realm didn't change at all. He was still an intermediate dangling fisher, and Sun Mu didn't dare to be careless. Judging from Han Fei's attack just now, he already knew that he definitely couldn't defeat him with ordinary strength. Therefore, Sun Mu spread his arms and long swords jumped out from his chest, back, arms, and forehead one after another. Each of them was a high-quality spiritual weapon. Why did they give him high-quality spiritual weapons? It was not because they didn't have ultra-quality spiritual weapons, but because if they were given ultra-quality spiritual weapons to train in the level 3 fishery, they wouldn't be able to gain any experience at all. Even if they were given ultra-quality spiritual weapons, they would only be given a few. There were very few people like Cao Qiu who had ultra-quality spiritual weapons all over his body. Just like at this moment, right in front of Sun Mu, a red long sword was standing upright and rotating. It was an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. When he saw Sun Mu before, this guy only used a high-quality spiritual weapon. He didn't expect that this guy had so many spiritual weapons. Including the red long sword, there were a total of 108 swords. Someone exclaimed, "Oh my God, it's the Sun family's unique skill, the Immortal's slaying formation." Retreat. Someone asked while retreating, "How strong is this Fan Datong?" He forced Sun Mu to use the Immortal's slaying formation as soon as he entered the arena. "Is he King crazy?" Someone responded, "I don't know whether he's crazy or not. I just know that I should stay away from him as soon as possible. Once the Immortal's slaying formation approaches, crush the flash stone as soon as possible and run away." Seeing that the crowd was scattering, Han Fei was speechless. "I just want to poison him. Do you think it's easy for me? How can I poison him now that the crowd has scattered?" Han Fei said to Xia Xiaochan via voice transmission, "Xia Xiaochan, go directly to the 201st floor." Xia Xiaochan refused. "No, I won't go." Seeing Xia Xiaochan's determined look, Han Fei asked, "Then take the antidote first and then block it with the metamorphosis water. Don't let the seawater touch you at all." Xia Xiaochan nodded. "Okay, no problem." Cao Qiu also said to her via voice transmission, "Is he going to release the poison? Let's stay away." Cao Qiu called 2 swords and Xia Xiaochan and ran directly to Mu Ling. Mu Ling seemed to know why they were here. She gently stepped on the ground, and a layer of defense array appeared. With another step, a water dungeon array appeared. With another stomp, a water shield appeared and surrounded the few of them. In the eyes of others, this scene was not a problem at all. After all, Sun Mu had even taken out the Immortal's slaying formation, which showed how dangerous this battle was. It was only natural for him to do some protective work. And Mo Fian also stayed far away from Sun Mu at this moment. At the same time, her eyes lit up. She had a strong curiosity about this Fan Datong. Sun Mu immediately activated the Immortal's slaying formation, which had never happened before. Li Hai muttered, "That guy seems to be quite powerful." Li Baijiu nodded. "Yes, I still don't believe that there is such a person in the Grand Void Academy." Li Hai added, "I don't believe it either, but those 2 disciples of the Grand Void Academy seem to know each other." Li Baijiu suggested, "Then let's kill those 2 disciples of the Grand Void Academy first and interrogate them." Li Hai suggested, "Maybe we can take advantage of the situation." Li Baijiu nodded. "Good idea." As soon as Sun Mu activated the Immortal's slaying formation, Han Fei found that there was no one around. Everybody retreated 1,000 meters away, including Tangu, without exception. However, before Tangu left, he said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "Don't worry. If you can't beat them, I'll come and help you." Han Fei responded, "No, I'll show you my strength in the past 2 years." Han Fei didn't expect that things would turn out like this because of his stare at Sun Mu. However, this was good. At least the 7 major sects wouldn't trouble him for the time being. Besides, he would go to the 1,000-star city anyway. It was not inappropriate to get to know these disciples of the big clans in advance. Swish, swish, swish. As Sun Mu pointed his finger, except for the little red sword floating in front of him, the other 107 swords rose into the air at the same time. Round after round, he made a total of 3 big circles. At this moment, Han Fei had to praise Sun Mu. His style was really King handsome. However, at this moment, he couldn't care less about whether his style was handsome or not. His killing intent was soaring. Clatter! The sword formation above his head flashed away in an instant. The spiritual swords were not aimed at Han Fei at all, but covered a radius of 500 meters. The landing points of the swords seemed to be very particular. First, 8 swords landed in 8 directions, followed by many long swords. Han Fei only felt that in this sword array, there was already sword chi everywhere without the need of swords at all. Seeing a few strands of sword chi floating towards him, Han Fei didn't resist but still lowered his hands and let the sword chi approach him. Chilla! Han Fei was swept by 5 or 6 strands of sword chi and remained motionless. On the periphery, many people looked surprised. Wow, this guy didn't even block them. His physique is so strong. Is this guy as strong as Chao Tian? The crowd was discussing, and Tang Ji's aura fluctuated a little. Mu Ling pulled him slightly. Don't worry. In the Immortals' slaying formation, any strand of sword chi can seriously injure an intermediate dangling fisher. He can feel it. Since he dares to resist it, it shows that his physique is strong. Tanga nodded. I know. I'm not afraid. I'm excited. I didn't expect that one day he would be so strong. I once thought that he would. Seeing that Tanga stopped halfway, Mu Ling couldn't help asking, well, what will happen? Tanga shook his head slightly and didn't answer. He once thought that Han Fei might stop at the realm of the fisher in this life. But now, he seemed to see the rise of a peerless heavenly talent. How could he not be excited? Chao Qiu sighed. Xie Xiaoan, what do you think is his most powerful feature? His physique? Xia Xiaochan tilted her head and said, no, both are very strong. Chao Qiu was speechless. You're just a little fangirl. I didn't ask you. Han Fei looked down. The sword chi tore his clothes but failed to cut his skin. Seeing this scene, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. Come on, let's continue. As soon as Han Fei's voice fell, within a radius of 500 meters, there were only a few strands of sword chi wandering, but in the blink of an eye, there were thousands of them, and the number was still increasing. Someone exclaimed, it's coming, it's coming. The Immortals' slaying sword chi is coming out. Han Fei was also speechless at this moment. I just said it. Why are there so many of them? However, Han Fei still didn't intend to make a move. He grabbed the handle of the blood-drinking knife with one hand, while injecting spiritual energy into it. Chilla, clang, 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 chilla. Han Fei's clothes were torn, and his head was swept by the sword chi. However, in the eyes of everyone outside, Han Fei still didn't move. This was simply suicidal. They couldn't even imagine it. Even if each sword chi could only make a small cut on his body, with so many sword chi, he would bleed to death. However, when Han Fei raised his hand and looked at it, white marks appeared on his skin. Suddenly, Han Fei grinned. Is there anything else? If not, I'm going to make a move. Chapter 466. Han Fei also realized that this Immortals' slaying formation should be very terrifying. However, he knew that his physique had also become 5 times stronger when the majestic mystic spell was still active. Therefore, unless these people used some particularly powerful combat skills, they definitely couldn't hurt him. When 4 red sword lights appeared in the Immortals' slaying formation, Han Fei knew that the highlight was coming. Puff! The speed of the red sword chi was even faster than Xia Xiaochan's thousand strike technique. Han Fei's face changed, and he subconsciously tried to dodge, but failed to do so. 2 streaks of red sword chi almost instantly landed on his body. Han Fei raised his arm, only to find that his forearm had been pierced and his thigh had been cut. Hiss! Swish! In everyone's expectation, Han Fei drew his knife. In fact, after the Immortals' slaying sword chi appeared, many people had already recognized Han Fei's strength. That thing wasn't something an ordinary person could block. If it were an ordinary person, he wouldn't even be able to resist it for a second with a spiritual energy protective cover. Therefore, when the red sword chi appeared, someone said, the Immortal shows the way is out. Fan Datong is going to attack. When the blood-drinking knife was drawn, The red sword chi that had already rushed over was shattered before it was completely unsheathed. All the immortals slaying sword chi around Han Fei collapsed almost in an instant. Seeing this scene, Sun Mu frowned even more tightly. So strong? Outside, Chao Chiu exclaimed, "He's going to attack. Kill him." Ji Wenxuan and Tian Yishan of the Grand Void Academy swallowed involuntarily. Tian Yishan asked, "Gong Yuehan was defeated by this knife?" Ji Wenxuan nodded dumbly. "Yes. However, Gong Yuehan took 3 knives at that time. However, Senior Brother Fan's knife didn't seem to be so strong at that time." Under everyone's surprised gaze, Han Fei's shadow swimming art was almost exerted to the extreme. Covering his waist with one hand, he rushed towards Sun Mu. It was not that Han Fei didn't want to draw his knife at this moment, but that the drawing technique was at its strongest when he was closest to the enemy. If it was an ordinary opponent, it didn't matter if he was a little further away. However, he met someone like Sun Mu, who was almost no weaker than him in both speed and strength. If he wanted to win and hide his strength, he had to get close to him. Ding, 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 ding. Sun Mu didn't move, but the sword formation did. The spirit swords that were suspended in the air all fell, and the spirit sword that fell were no longer spirit swords, but had turned into streaks of red sword chi. Red light shines everywhere. Mo Fian, Li Hai, Li Baizhou, 2 swords, and Chao Chiu all exclaimed. Tangge had never competed with Sun Mu before, so he frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" Chao Chiu nodded. There are 4 styles to immortal slaying. The first style is Sword Chi Rampage. The second style is Immortal Guides the Way. The third style is Red Light Everywhere. And the fourth style is Water and Fire Dodge. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to last until the third move. But wasn't Sun Mu's speed too fast this time? This is the third style? Li Hai and Li Baizhou were just about to kill the 2 disciples of the Grand Void Academy, but they stopped when they saw this scene. They wanted to see if Fan Datong could survive the Immortals' slaying array. If he could, the Grand Void Academy wouldn't be able to offend them for the time being. Rub, the blood-drinking knife was drawn out, the sea trembled, and a high-quality battle suit appeared on Han Fei's body. This was not the time to be capricious. The red sword chi was really strong. At this moment, rows of red sword chi formed a formation and swept over from all directions. If he didn't put up some defense, he really wouldn't be able to resist it. Han Fei said to the Hexagon Starfish via voice transmission, "Master Hexagon, set up a defense array." The Hexagon Starfish was shivering at this moment. While covering Han Fei with a defense array, it responded, "Hurry up and run. I feel like I'm going to die. I'm going to die." Han Fei shouted, "Shut up. Kill." Clang, clang, clang. The blood-drinking knife was completely unleashed, and dozens of balls of spiritual energy appeared around Han Fei at the same time, exploding at this moment. Han Fei tried to resist the red sword currents with a burst of spiritual energy, but it didn't work at all. The defense array set up by the Hexagon Starfish on his body only resisted for 1 second before it was broken. Originally, it was only a few hundred meters away. Usually, Han Fei would have reached it, but at this moment, Han Fei was only halfway there. Clank, clank, clank. With a clatter, the high-quality spiritual battle suit on his body was covered with sword marks, and some of them had even been penetrated. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. According to this situation, this high-quality spiritual battle suit would be scrapped in less than 3 waves. Damn it, not enough. The distance is not enough. Han Fei hadn't experienced the feeling of his life hanging by a thread for a long time. At this moment, he was a little excited in his heart. Tangge immediately moved, and the halberd in his hand trembled, ready to attack. Of course, he could see how terrifying the Immortals' slaying formation was. The high-quality spiritual battle suit was almost penetrated in an instant. What would it mean if it happened to his body? He admitted that Han Fei's physique was very strong. However, no matter how strong his physique was, could he resist the opponent's ultra-quality spiritual weapon when facing an opponent of the same level? Tangge didn't think he could do it. Even if he had practiced multiple heaven-level combat skills, he couldn't do it. However, just when Tangge was about to attack, Xia Xiaochan stepped forward and blocked him. "Don't worry. Tang Ge frowned. At this moment, he didn't like Xia Xiaochan very much. He said coldly, "Are you just going to stand by and watch?" Xia Xiaochan looked indifferent. "You underestimate him." Tang Ge was stunned. "I've overestimated him. The Immortals' slaying formation has been used up to the third move. Even I may not be able to resist such a terrifying attack." As for the others, they were already stunned. "Oh my god, this guy is crazy. He's charging forward just for that slash? How ferocious and domineering. He's the second guy I've seen to charge forward against the Immortals' slaying formation." Someone glanced at him and couldn't help but recall that the first person to charge against the Immortals' slaying formation was Chao Tian. Back then, that demon genius had established himself as the #1 expert among the younger generation. It was not for nothing. Among them, the reason why Chao Tian was able to quickly become the strongest among them was that he was a madman who could fight against the Immortals' slaying formation and go on a rampage. Chao Qiu also exclaimed, "Crazy, crazy." Fan Datong is qualified to be in the top 10 of the heavenly talent list of the Thousand-Star City. However, no one asked Chao Qiu about the top 10 of the heavenly talent list. Because in the Immortals' slaying formation, for some reason, the water around Han Fei began to move abnormally. Waves of seawater vortexes seemed to have turned into weapons, rolling like knives. When the second wave of red sword currents hit Han Fei, the high-quality spiritual battlesuit he looted had already been broken. When the third wave of red sword currents came, everyone was shocked to find that the red sword currents couldn't move anymore. They were blocked by a seawater vortex. Han Fei grinned. "You forced me to do this." 10 meters, 20 meters, 100 meters. The seawater was completely chaotic. Everyone saw that the seawater around Han Fei was turning into countless water blades, so dense that they couldn't be described with numbers. If they had to describe it, they could only say that there were as many blades as there was seawater. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up, and she narrowed her eyes. She smiled and said, "Humph, you finally used it." Gulp. The onlookers all swallowed. Tang Ji's eyes flickered with a strange light, and his body trembled faintly. "So strong, too strong. This is my brother." Is this the brother who was ridiculed by countless people back then? He had never thought that Han Fei, who had never been to the Thousand-Star City, could come this far with his own strength. Han Fei's speed was getting faster and faster, and the blood-drinking knife in his hand was already full of knife intent. From thousands of meters away, everyone could feel the intimidating knife light, which was no weaker than the red sword currents of the Immortals' slaying formation. Sun Mu's face finally changed at this moment. He was retreating. Sun Mu couldn't figure out what kind of combat skill Han Fei had to be to turn seawater into such a terrifying water blade. Heaven-level high quality? How could a heaven-level combat skill have such terrifying power? Sun Mu shouted, the fourth move of Immortals slaying, water and fire avoidance. Swish, swish, swish. When Sun Mu retreated, the red sword currents scattered into rays of red light and returned to Sun Mu in an instant. There were 107 rays of light, and they all gathered on the ultra-quality spiritual sword in front of Sun Mu. When Han Fei and Sun Mu were only a dozen meters away, the fourth move of Immortals slaying sword appeared. In an instant, the water waves were pushed away. At the bottom of the water, as if a nuclear explosion had taken place, a big round ball wrapped Han Fei and Sun Mu in it. There was nothing but whiteness around them. Except for the continuous rolling ripples, nothing could be seen. The explosion shock wave radiated outward. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan's face changed, and she rushed out first. Following her were Tang Ge, Two Swords, Chao Qiu, and then Mo Fian, Li Hai, and Li Baizhou. This last blow was too strong, so that when a large group of people was about 300 meters away from the explosion point, they could still feel the raging, violent knife, intent, and sword chi in the seawater. However, before they could see the situation inside the big white water ball, someone suddenly covered his stomach. Ouch! Did I accidentally get hit? Han Fei didn't know how long it would take for Chao Qiu's Poison King to take effect. So, when he launched this blow, he secretly put a bowl of Poison King in it. When colliding with the fourth move of the Immortals' slaying formation, Han Fei directly wrapped himself in the infinity water. However, there was still a difference between the omniscient water and the infinity water. Xia Xiaochan could transform the omniscient water at any time, but Han Fei could only transform it into weapons for the time being. It was barely enough to protect himself. Of course, Han Fei wasn't afraid. Cao Qiu said that these spiritual herbs were all collected in the level 3 fishery. Since he had eaten the venomous tulip, he should be more resistant to poison than anyone else present. Unless someone else here had also taken the venomous tulip. When the big white ball broke into dense, small bubbles and then gradually disappeared, everyone finally saw the situation inside. Han Fei's clothes were torn, and only a ragged shorts were left on his body. However, the almost perfect, streamlined muscles on his body looked so explosive. Han Fei half knelt on the ground, the upper half of his body covered with fine bloodstains, and the seawater in front of him was dyed red. And Sun Mu was much more miserable than Han Fei. In front of him, an amulet was cut in half and fell to the ground. Only half of the high-quality spiritual suit on his body was left. On his body, there was a huge wound from his shoulder to his waist. At this moment, Sun Mu's body was covered with a faint layer of cyan mist. Obviously, this was another amulet, and it was a relatively good one. Even so, Sun Mu was half lying on the ground, and there was more blood mist in the seawater beside him than on Han Fei's side. Han Fei cursed in his heart. Fighting with these people is really a headache. Is this ** so strong? In terms of attack power alone, Sun Mu was even stronger than Yang Diu. Han Fei didn't cast the divine healing technique on himself, but stood up again with his feet. At the same time, a high-quality spiritual suit appeared on his body. Han Fei twisted his neck and pointed at Sun Mu with one hand. Without the amulet, you would have been dead just now. Sun Mu's subordinates hurriedly swam over. 2 spirit gatherers were casting healing techniques on Sun Mu. Sun Mu struggled to stand up and said with difficulty, "Who the hell are you? If the Grand Void Academy had the combat skills you just used, we wouldn't have been suppressed by the other sects until now." Han Fei ignored him, but said to Cao Qiu via voice transmission, "Why is there no reaction after such a long time? Did I put too little poison? I only put 1 bowl. Is it not enough?" Cao Qiu's eyes widened. "You put 1 bowl in?" Cao Qiu hurriedly pulled 2 swords. "Go to the next floor. Hurry up." With that, Cao Qiu's figure faded. Wang Zetian paused, took a deep look at Han Fei, and then his body also faded. "Huh." Mo Fian was slightly taken aback. "Why are they running? I'll go to the next floor and have a look." Mo Fian felt that something was wrong. This guy who suddenly appeared was with Cao Qiu. Even a fool knew what Cao Qiu's purpose was. He had been trying to kill them for a long time. There must be something wrong with this guy. When Mo Fian's body also faded, Han Fei saw that the 2 guys from the Grand Void Academy hadn't left yet, and thought to himself, "It's not my fault. IF * King warned you long ago. If I hadn't wanted to pretend to be you, I would have taught you a lesson long ago." Mu Ling's expression changed slightly. How powerful is the poison? Why did Cao Qiu just run away? The water prison technique can't be withdrawn. This is the Poison King. Mu Ling's heart skipped a beat, and she secretly added another layer of seal to her feet. She didn't know what the Poison King was, but Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei were on the same side. Since she said so, she must have some basis. Sun Mu was still waiting for Han Fei's reply, and Han Fei glanced at the crowd. When he saw someone clutching his stomach with an ugly expression and his face turning blue, he looked back at Sun Mu. "It's because I'm suppressed by the other sects that I can't show up easily. If you lose, won't you give me your sea-swallowing seashell?" Sun Mu gritted his teeth. "When did I bet with you on my sea-swallowing seashell?" Han Fei snorted. "Coward, it's just a sea-swallowing seashell. Do you think I can't get it just because you hide it?" Suddenly, Sun Mu seemed to find something wrong and immediately retreated dozens of meters. But no matter how he retreated, he couldn't feel anything. What was wrong? Puff, 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 ew, my stomach is broken. Not good, EW. There's something in the water. Puff, 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 goo, goo. Almost like a chain reaction, There was a lot of farting sounds in the seawater, which lasted for a long time. At that moment, except for Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan, Mu Ling, and Tengu, everyone else, including Sun Mu, was clutching their stomachs. Sun Mu's eyes were cold. You poisoned it. Han Fei didn't deny it, but said to Tengu and the other two via voice transmission, "You go to the next floor first." Seeing that the situation was under control, Tengu didn't hesitate and went directly to the next floor. However, when he left, he had a weird look on his face. Is this the Poison King? Why did the Poison King fart? Xia Xiaochan's face was already dark. She ran away as soon as possible. She felt disgusted. Han Fei, on the other hand, smiled creepily. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. There are so many of you. How can I fight them one by one? To tell you the truth, I made this poison with thousands of spiritual herbs when I traveled in the level 3 fishery for several months. Its toxicity is unprecedented. It's the most terrifying and frightening poison. People will vomit and have diarrhea for 7 days. If you don't have the antidote, you can find a hole and start to poop. Han Fei shamelessly attributed this invention to his own invention, which could greatly shape his terrifying image. Li Hai scoffed, "Damn it, disgusting. You've pissed us off." Li Baijiu scoffed, "Fan Datong, if you have the ability, why did you use such a dirty trick?" Someone cursed, "Damn it, give me the antidote, Puff." Senior brother Fan, the antidote. EW, Han Fei blinked his eyes. "Don't send me voice transmissions. 100 people are sending me voice transmissions. My head is in a mess. Whoever throws their sea-swallowing seashells to me first, I will give them the antidote first. There are only 100 antidotes. However, there are obviously more than 100 people here. Let's see which of you is faster." Someone cursed, "Lunatic, you will become the public enemy of all the major sections." Han Fei turned his head, only to see a young man glaring at him fiercely. So, Han Fei smiled and said, "Okay, you don't have the antidote. I won't give you a hard time. Just get the hell out of here." The man's face turned green. "Damn it, I just wanted to vent my anger." Senior brother Fan, hurry up, the antidote. I can't hold on any longer." Ji Wenxuan swam over. In midair, a strange color floated out of his pants. Han Fei's face changed greatly. He pointed at him and scolded, "Don't come over. Didn't I tell you to go? Why are you still here?" Han Fei frowned. "CK, I really don't want to give them the antidote. My identity as the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy will be exposed as soon as I leave the steps into the sea wait." Suddenly, Han Fei flicked his fingers and 2 drops of antidote flew to Ji Wenxuan and Tian Yishan respectively. Han Fei said, "Junior brother, finish it quickly." Tian Yishan couldn't hold on anymore. He was already lying on the ground. When the antidote flew over, he immediately jumped out with his last strength and swallowed it. But the turbid seawater almost made Han Fei vomit. Suddenly, a set of black clothes appeared in Han Fei's hand, and then he put it on in front of everyone. Once again, the hat of malicious spirits seducing souls was placed on his head. Han Fei shook his body and turned back into the black and white ghosts, which stunned everyone for a moment. "You are really not a disciple of the Grand Void Academy." Han Fei smiled. "Wrong. In order to restore the glory of the Grand Void Academy, Xie Xiaoan and I have worked hard for 3 years to achieve what we have today. We are the weapons cultivated by the Grand Void Academy, the Black and White Ghosts. In this battle, the Grand Void Academy will return to its peak." Han Fei thought that no one knew the origin of the Black and White Ghosts anyway. Since he had pretended to be the last disciple of the Dean of the Grand Void Academy, he might as well put the Black and White Ghosts in the Grand Void Academy's name. It was nothing more than framing them one more time. Ji Wenxuan and Tian Yishan's faces turned green. Is this really our senior brother? Although the antidote was given, they almost instantly expected a consequence. After leaving the steps into the sea, would they be beaten to death by the crowd? The two looked at each other, and their bodies immediately faded away. Seeing the 2 sea-swallowing seashells run away, Han Fei was a little unhappy. But it didn't matter. It was good to let the Grand Void Academy take the blame first. By the time these people figured out the truth, he and Xia Xiaochan would have already left the steps into the sea. At that time, in a level 3 fishery, he would be free. Who could catch him? Puff, puff, puff. Han Fei protected himself in disgust, and then said, "No one is willing to leave their sea swallowing seashells to me, right? Fine, I don't want them either. I'm leaving. Bye, everyone." Wait a minute. The first to shout was none other than Sun Mu, who was closest to Han Fei, followed by Li Hai and Li Baizhou. They couldn't hold it in any longer. However, as the descendants of the big clans, their sense of honor forbade them from showing themselves in front of the world in this way. They had even expected that this matter would spread throughout the Thousand-Star City. At that time, they would definitely become the laughingstock of the Thousand-Star City. Sun Mu and the Li twins threw their sea-swallowing seashells over. The moment Han Fei caught the sea-swallowing seashells, he smiled and threw out a drop of antidote. It was just that this antidote was a little watery, but it shouldn't be a problem to suppress it for a while. With these three taking the lead, hundreds of sea-swallowing seashells were thrown over at once, and Han Fei almost couldn't catch them. As a result, a large number of antidotes were thrown out by Han Fei. Han Fei also said to the others via voice transmission, "I'm a man of integrity. I only rob people of their wealth and never take their lives." Don't worry. Han Fei would have been fine if he hadn't said this. But now that he said this, everyone really wanted to kill him. Sun Mu and Li Hai seemed to be talking to each other via voice transmission, but Han Fei didn't care. How could they have combat power so quickly? However, in case these people recovered, Han Fei continued, "I will stay for another 5 minutes. If you don't throw your sea-swallowing seashells to me, I don't want them anymore." Puff, puff. In the chaos of farting, Han Fei received another batch of sea-swallowing seashells. When the last sea-swallowing seashells were collected, many people had already begun to have spiritual energy surging in their bodies, which scared Han Fei so much that his body faded and he entered the next level. "Damn it!" Li Hai shouted, "I must kill him." Li Baizhou shouted, "He can't run away. Once he returns to the Thousand-Star City, kill him." Sun Mu said, "Let's get out of here first." For a moment, many people were speechless. The seawater was full of turbid things, which was extremely disgusting. On the steps into the sea, Yang Diyu asked for some sea-swallowing seashells with his own identity. Then he took some basic necessities and threw them into the sea-swallowing seashells. He was about to leave when he heard exclamations behind him. Yang Diyu was taken aback. "Huh? Why is it so noisy? Did some kind of amazing treasure appear?" "Young master, it seems that someone came out of the steps into the sea again." Yang Diyu was slightly taken aback. Is it necessary to make such a big noise just because someone came out? Huh, huh. Tell me, where are the people from the Grand Void Academy? I'm going to kill them. A roar came from a distance. Yang Diyu was immediately stunned. Huh, it sounds like the voice of that asterisk starred Li Hai. Let's go and have a look. When Yang Diyu arrived, he discovered a large group of people. They were all disciples of the major sections. Even Sun Mu was among them. Yang Diyu was amused. "Hey, Sun Mu, why are you here too?" "Pooh, pooh, pooh." In the crowd, a disciple of the Mountain Sea Pavilion suddenly farted. EW. Immediately afterward, someone began to vomit. F*CK. The surrounding crowd suddenly dispersed a lot. "You're already a F*King peak level dangling fisher. Why are you still farting? And why is it so loud?" Someone said in disgust. "Huh, what's that smell?" "Pooh, pooh." Yang Diyu was speechless. "Are you done? Have you taken the wrong medicine?" Just as Yang Diyu was feeling disgusted, Li Baizhou farted as well. Sun Mu quickly flashed past the steps into the sea and ran out of the steps into the sea. "Damn it, we were tricked. Be starred, I'll kill you. Hurry up and find a place. I can't hold it anymore." Yang Diyu and the group of fish-eating people were dumbfounded. What's going on? Half a day later, when the news that Fan Datong released poison on the 200th floor of the steps into the sea spread, Yang Diyu felt cold all over and his back was covered with cold sweat. Yang Diyu sighed. Fortunately, I came out early. Otherwise, Yang Diu shivered and then laughed. Let's go. I'm happy. Let's go to the secret realm in 2 days. I'm going to see where Sun Mu is hiding. Yang Diu was enjoying the show, but others weren't. Many people were horrified. The black and white ghosts have already reached the 200th floor. Even the heavenly talents of the thousand-star city have been driven out by them. For a time, the black and white ghosts were in the limelight. Some people even began to dig up the secrets of the black and white ghosts. On the 201st floor of the steps into the sea, Han Fei patted his chest and then grinned. What a fruitful harvest! What a fruitful harvest! The hexagon starfish said, Human, I have a feeling that you will be beaten to death if you go out. Han Fei chuckled. Don't worry, I have the thousand faces technique. At this moment, Han Fei even admired Chao Chiu, the little fatty. Although this guy was not good at fighting, his ability to invent and create was really terrifying. Just now, he had almost lost control of himself and was about to vomit when he heard the sound of 10,000 farts. At this moment, Han Fei scanned the sea, swallowing seashells one by one. The more he looked, the more smiles he had on his face. TSK, as expected of a disciple of a major sect. So many good things. If these sea-swallowing seashells are sold on the ghost ship, how much can they be sold for? I wonder if there are 100 million? Han Fei grinned and picked out the soul crystals in these sea-swallowing seashells one by one. After collecting all the sea-swallowing seashells, Han Fei was shocked to find that there were nearly 300 soul crystals for these people alone. In total, it had reached the level of 1 per person. Wow, awesome. Sure enough, robbing is much easier than fighting. Han Fei looked around and didn't feel the ripples, so he sat on the ground. 2. When 2 soul crystals were absorbed, Han Fei suddenly felt refreshed. He seemed to feel a burst of enlightenment. He could remember the God-scaring painting now. At this point, 10 soul crystals had been absorbed, but the God-scaring painting had no reaction at all. But as soon as the 11th soul crystal was absorbed, the God-scaring painting in his mind shook. Immediately, Han Fei's eyes flashed, and he continued to eat. 1, 2. Another 10 soul crystals were absorbed. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes and released his spiritual perception. The next moment, Han Fei was stunned. Wow! Han Fei suddenly stood up. Wait, didn't you say it was 50 meters? Why has my perception range increased by 500 meters? The hexagon starfish asked, Can you give me a few? Did I make a contribution? Han Fei immediately took out 10 soul crystals. Come on, Master Hexagon. How large is your perception range now? The hexagon starfish couldn't believe it when he saw Han Fei take out 10 soul crystals and throw them in front of him. Then he waved his hand, and the 10 soul crystals disappeared in the blink of an eye. The hexagon starfish yelled, I'm big, even larger than the height of that big red trunk. Han Fei frowned. So large. However, Han Fei had serious doubts about the hexagon starfish's mathematical ability. So he took out his fishing rod and said, Feel where my fishing hook lands. Feel it carefully. 1,000 meters away. Han Fei asked, Is there a problem here? No problem. 1,500 meters away. What about here? No problem. It turned out that Han Fei's estimation was right. The hexagon starfish's perception range was very large, reaching 2,400 meters. Han Fei had just increased it by 500 meters, so his perception range was only 1,000 meters in total. He wondered if his perception range would continue to increase if he continued to use it. Master Hexagon Starfish, digest it now. Don't keep any of the 10 soul crystals. The Hexagon Starfish found it incredible. How could Han Fei be so generous? Soul crystals. 10 at a time. Han Fei continued to sit down and continued to use the soul crystals excitedly. 1, 2. At this moment, Han Fei already felt that a single soul crystal seemed to have an effect. However, because he hadn't memorized the fragments of the God-scaring painting, this effect wouldn't increase his perception range. However, when the number of 10 soul crystals passed and another fragment of the God-scaring painting was memorized, Han Fei found that his perception range had expanded by another 500 meters. Shoot. Han Fei was dumbfounded and immediately looked at the hexagon starfish. Master Hexagon Starfish, how is it? How much has your perception range increased? Master Hexagon Starfish. I haven't started absorbing yet. Han Fei. So slow. Han Fei's heart was thumping nonstop. Chao Chiu said that Chao Tian's perception range was only 3,300 meters. No matter how powerful he was, he could at most increase it to 4,000 meters. If Han Fei guessed right, the increase of his perception range had little to do with the soul crystals. The soul crystals were just the key to opening the God-scaring painting. And the God-scaring painting was the key to the increase of his perception range. The 6 big eyes of the hexagon starfish were spinning like gyroscopes, because it found that Han Fei took out 10 soul crystals every few hundred minutes. He had taken them out 7 or 8 times. As a starfish, it was very panicked and felt that there was nowhere to place its tentacles. So fast. My first soul crystal hasn't moved yet. How many have you absorbed? 80? 100? Chapter 467. Han Fei's nose was bleeding. Yes, he was so excited that his nose was bleeding, because his perception range had been increased to 5,000 meters. It was a full 5,000, not discounted at all, and he remembered 20 small pieces of the spiritual painting. Originally, he should have remembered 19 pieces. However, later, Han Fei used 10 soul crystals to remember another piece. However, this time, he only remembered a fragment of the God-scaring painting, but his perception range didn't increase. When Han Fei tried again, he found that 10 soul crystals didn't seem to be enough for him to continue to remember the God-scaring painting. On the contrary, he felt that his mind was much clearer. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the hexagon starfish again, and then asked suspiciously, "Master Hexagon, do you think there is a bottleneck in my perception range?" The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes looked at Han Fei. "Has your perception range reached a bottleneck?" Han Fei paused for a moment. "You have so many questions. Tell me if there is a bottleneck first. What should I do when I reach a bottleneck? You're making things difficult for me. However, there must be a bottleneck in my perception range." Han Fei's expression changed slightly. Huh? Why were they sure? Why? The hexagon starfish rolled his eyes. Because there is a limit on the soul. When the soul strength can't bear more powerful spiritual power, there will be a bottleneck, right? Wow, Han Fei was stunned. He had always thought that the soul was spiritual power. He couldn't distinguish between the two, and no one had told him. So, in fact, they were not the same thing at all. The improvement of the soul would lead to the improvement of spiritual power. And the improvement of spiritual power would further lead to the expansion of the perception range. Yes, it must be like this. Han Fei glanced at the hexagon starfish and thought to himself, this guy knows a lot. Han Fei chuckled. "Master Hexagon, how can I improve my soul? Or rather, what is a soul?" The hexagon starfish's eyes swayed left and right. "I don't know. I'm a starfish that has been locked up for 300 years. Han Fei thought that the hexagon starfish probably didn't know. Its current perception range was less than half of his. It probably hadn't reached a bottleneck yet. When his perception range was no longer increased, Han Fei knew that his soul couldn't be improved, so he didn't plan to continue. Not surprisingly, he was likely to be the person with the largest perception range on the steps into the sea. Han Fei's perception swept out, and everything within 5,000 meters fell into his eyes. However, what surprised him was that there was no one in this area. Didn't they say that the 200th and 201st floors had the most people? How come there's no one here? Han Fei was confused, but he didn't immediately go to Xia Xiaochan and the others. Instead, he took out 10 spirit fruits. After a moment of thought, he took out 5 more and began to offer them. However, the 15 spiritual fruits, which were worth nearly 1.2 million points of spiritual energy, were not successfully sacrificed. It's so ruthless. Then he took out another 10 spiritual fruits, 25 spiritual fruits in total, and offered them as a sacrifice. In the end, he still failed. Han Fei, this is a robbery. This is 25 F asterisk king spiritual fruits, not 25 mid-quality pearls, all right? Han Fei immediately put away the spiritual fruit. It consumed too much spiritual energy. This thing was simply a bottomless pit. At this rate, if he sacrificed all the spiritual fruits, he would run out of spiritual fruits before he reached the 100th floor. So Han Fei took out a sea-swallowing seashell. At this moment, Han Fei didn't even bother to estimate the value of a sea-swallowing seashell. Anyway, there were all kinds of mystic stones, low-quality spiritual weapons, precious materials, and exotic fish in it. So, he found that the sea-swallowing seashells he grabbed at the beginning were no longer enough for the sacrifice. Before the 100th floor, he used a total of 7 sea-swallowing seashells to complete this sacrifice. With the completion of this sacrifice, a seed floated out of the empty seawater. Wow, I'm so lucky. I got a treasure. Huh, wait. Suddenly, Han Fei's face changed drastically. He paused and then quickly retreated. Just when he was about to grab this seed, he found that this seed was rapidly expanding and growing larger. But in the blink of an eye, it had already grown to the size of a fist. Gotcha! The seed was cracking, and it grew larger and larger. In only 2 seconds, it had become half the size of a man. Also, the speed of its growth was getting faster and faster. When crimson vines burst out of the bulging seed, a piece of data appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name, demon-shattering vine. Introduction, a deep-sea hunter, venomous, flexible, and full of barbs on its vines. It feeds on large fish and shrimps, can hunt according to the movement of water, and has a strong consciousness. When it is mature, it will produce demon's spiritual fruit, which can enhance the soul power. Level 38, quality, exotic, spiritual energy greater than 2,908 points. Effect, inedible, collectible, demon's spiritual fruit, unabsorbable. Han Fei frowned and took a few steps back. This was the first and only plant creature he had summoned in the steps into the sea. Demon's spiritual fruit? A spiritual fruit that can enhance the soul power? At this moment, the demon-shattering vine was growing crazily. From the time it was a seed, it had grown to its current size of 3 meters in less than 10 breaths of time. Suddenly, without thinking too much, Han Fei took action. Only the heavens knew how long this strange plant-type creature would take to grow. It was only 3 meters in size now. What if it grew to 30 meters or 300 meters? Seeing that nobody was around, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were unleashed. After the demon-shattering vines were cut off, a shocking scene appeared. The demon-shattering vines that were cut off were growing too. After such a short time, the demon-shattering vines had grown to 5 meters in size. Damn it, what the hell is this? Suddenly, the hexagon starfish said, it seems to have very strong energy and spiritual energy. However, it's being consumed. Did you attack it too early? Han Fei stepped back. Should I wait for it to grow up before I attack it? The hexagon starfish said, actually, you can attack it now. Although there are more of them, their vitality remains the same. Han Fei thought of something. Although he didn't know how the hexagon starfish sensed such a mysterious thing as vitality, he didn't think that the hexagon starfish, who was also a sea creature, would lie to him. So, Han Fei continued to control the blue sea wandering dragon daggers and madly cut the vines. Even a crimson vine of the demon-shattering vines was cut into more than a dozen pieces. Although the broken vines were still growing, only the number of them had increased. There seemed to be nothing special about them. Hundreds of minutes later, in front of Han Fei, there was a forest with a radius of 50 meters. Among them, there was a broken main vine in the center. Around the main vine, there were vines tens of meters long everywhere. Those vines were covered with barbs, and a few drops of red liquid dripped from them from time to time. Han Fei's lips twitched. Is it not growing anymore? The hexagon starfish nodded. I think so. Then kill it first. There was no telling if it was because of the effect of the vines that Han Fei had cut off before, but those agile, snake-like tentacles pounced at Han Fei one after another. However, it didn't work. Before they could get close, Han Fei immediately shattered them with the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. This time, he really crushed them to death. The vines that were tens of meters long were disappearing. After only a moment, the demon-shattering vines with a radius of 50 meters had been cut to the trunk by Han Fei, which covered an area of less than 10 meters. Hee, I thought this thing was very fierce. The hexagon starfish scoffed. That doesn't seem right. It seems to be very strong, but it was cut by you at the beginning. Otherwise, if it were left to grow, it might be much bigger than it is now. Han Fei said in disdain. So what if it's bigger? It's just a vine after all. As soon as he said that, Han Fei shot an arrow at the trunk of the demon-shattering vines, leaving a big hole in them. When Han Fei was about to kill the demon-shattering vines, he suddenly sensed that a young man in white was coming this way quickly. Finally, someone's here? BM, BM, BM. He shot 7 or 8 arrows in a row, and the demon-shattering vines exploded again and again until they disappeared. A crimson fruit emerged in the water. It looked round and red, with a thin skin. Is this the demon's spiritual fruit? Han Fei grabbed the demon's spiritual fruit and threw it into Forge the Universe. Then he put the bow into his body, and the blue sea wandering dragon daggers all disappeared into his body. There was only a whetstone and a kitchen knife left in Han Fei's hand. After no more than 2 seconds, a young man in white came with a smile on his face. You summoned the demon-shattering vines? The young man in white looked at Han Fei with a smile, like a gentle scholar, even giving people a feeling of spring breeze. Han Fei also put on a smile. That's right. What can I do for you? The young man in white extended one of his hands and waved it casually in the water. Then he closed his eyes and sensed for a moment the sharpness of a knife and the sharpness of the arrow. You are a powerful soul warrior. You're not from the Thousand Star City, are you? Han Fei didn't say anything. He thought to himself, what are you trying to say? The young man in white chuckled and hid his hands in his long sleeves again. Okay, give me the demon spiritual fruit, and there will be no more disputes between us. Han Fei smiled. I've never seen such an arrogant robber in all my life. Han Fei said casually, what if I don't give it to you? The young man in white said, then let's have a competition. I'm bored. You don't seem to be weak. Let's have a game? Han Fei said with a fake smile. Okay, let's have a game. After saying that, the seawater around the two of them began to tremble and become restless. Whirlpools suddenly appeared between the two of them and began to spin crazily. When a young man in white's aura soared to the level of a peak-level dangling fisher, Han Fei frowned. This guy looks rather ordinary, but something doesn't seem right. Clatter. Suddenly, Han Fei lowered his head, only to find that a weird array had appeared below his feet. Han Fei was confused. Mr. Hexagon Starfish, why did you set up an array? The Hexagon Starfish muttered, I didn't. Han Fei's expression slightly changed. It was a young man in white. But when did he set up an array below his feet? Also, the array was a simple confinement array. After Han Fei grunted, dozens of cracks appeared on the confinement array. Han Fei smiled and said, it's impolite not to reciprocate. 6-gate array. At the moment when the purple light rose, a white shadow flashed in the sea, and the 6-gate array missed its target. Han Fei's eyes almost popped out when he saw this scene. What a fast speed. It was even faster than him. Boom. When a young man in white dodged the 6-gate array, Han Fei had already shot out the embroidery needle in his hand. He pointed at the confinement array, and after a boom, the array was broken. The two looked at each other again in the water, and no one trapped the other. The smile on the young man in white's face faded slightly. I guessed right the array just now. Hexagon Starfish? Han Fei still had a smile on his face. Another guy who had never even seen Mr. Hexagon Starfish, but could recognize the Hexagon Starfish just by looking at the 6-gate array. The Hexagon Starfish panicked. Let's run. I feel that I am in danger. Han Fei scoffed. Shut up. What haven't we seen before? How can we just run when we meet someone? Why don't you call yourself Hexagon Starfish? The young man in white said via voice transmission. It's surprising that you have a mysterious creature. I think you are very extraordinary. But how strong are you? With that, the young man in white disappeared in the water, and then Han Fei saw a white light and shadows crisscrossing around him. That was not a weapon, nor a combat skill. The white light and shadow was the young man in white himself. Han Fei was speechless. This was the first time he had seen someone so fast. In the blink of an eye, he could run dozens of laps around him. In terms of speed alone, he was probably defeated. Han Fei said to him via voice transmission, "What's so great about running fast?" Idiot. Han Fei didn't care about the white light and shadow at all, but walked straight on the bottom of the sea. He had made up his mind. You can run all you want, but come and hit me if you dare. Sure enough, the white light and shadow turned around and suddenly appeared behind Han Fei. A thin sword actually turned around and intended to attack Han Fei's chest. However, Han Fei ignored the sword at all and slashed behind him with a backhand knife. As he expected, he missed the target. The white-clothed young man didn't expect that Han Fei would not care about getting injured at all and was ready to fight him by exchanging injuries for injuries. Han Fei looked at the rapier that brushed past his chest and didn't even leave a scratch. He sneered, "Coward! Have you never fought before? What's so great about being fast? I'll cut you into pieces if you show up in front of me again." The young man's face slightly changed, as if he had been provoked by Han Fei. He turned into a white shadow again, and this time he attacked in a similar way to Xia Xiaochan's thousand strike technique. At that moment, Han Fei really felt that many real people were attacking him from all directions so fast that he couldn't resist them at all. Humph! Voila! The blood-drinking knife swept across the sky, and the shadows in all directions backed off. The sword flashed dozens of times before Han Fei finally saw that his attack had been broken. When the young man in white showed up again, Han Fei looked at him with a faint smile. "What's the point of being fast? That's exactly what you are. You can't even take one attack from me in a head-on battle. TSK, TSK, you want the demon's spiritual fruit from me? Is your head stuck in your swallowing seashell?" The young man in white blushed and was no longer as calm and composed as he was at the beginning. He asked, "Who are you?" Han Fei said, "It's none of your business. You can't beat me. You're not qualified to ask me." As he spoke, Han Fei simply ignored him and swam in a random direction. He decided to find Xia Xiaochan and Tanga first. Needless to say, Tanga must be waiting for him on this floor. But after swimming for a while, the young man in white appeared again. At this moment, he seemed to have recovered from his frustration. Han Fei tilted his head and looked at him. "What? Do you still want to fight?" The young man in white said, "I've thought it through. It's not that I'm not strong. You only attacked once, and I attacked 17 times. It's not because my sword is too weak. I'm pretty sure that every attack of mine is at least as powerful as a peak-level dangling fisher. However, it took me 17 times to block your attack. This can only mean that you are much stronger than you look. Therefore, it's impossible for someone like you to be a nameless nobody." Han Fei tilted his head. "So, you figured this out in such a short time?" The young man in white continued, "Although I don't know whether the hexagon starfish is your spiritual beast or contractual spiritual beast, no matter which one it is, I'm sure that you are at least a peerless heavenly talent among your peers in the 7 major sections. I think we can be friends since you and I are of the same age." Humph! Han Fei was speechless and rolled his eyes at him. "Sorry, I'm not interested. If you keep following me, I'll hit you." The young man in white was silent for a while. "You can't hit me. Among the 7 major sects and the major families, no one can catch up with me in speed." Han Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. This person is so king confident. At the same time, this person is also arrogant. Although he had to admit that the other party was very fast, did his parents know that he was so arrogant? The young man in white said, "My name is Yi Baiyu. What's your name?" Han Fei paused. "You are Yi Baiyu?" Yi Baiyu was taken aback. "You know me? Then why don't I know you?" Along the way, Han Fei had heard Chao Qiu talk about Yi Baiyu and Shenouchen for a long time. He had always felt that the person Chao Qiu had been talking about must be very strong. In fact, Yi Baiyu was indeed very strong. It could even be said that almost no one in the same realm could beat him with his speed. Take Yang Diyu, for example. If Yi Baiyu stood still and fought with him, Yang Diyu could hack him until he doubted his life. However, once Yi Baiyu moved, he could shake Yang Diyu until he doubted his life. The difference between Han Fei and Yang Diyu was that Han Fei's physique was stronger than Yang Diyu's. Therefore, Yi Baiyu could beat Yang Diyu, but he couldn't because Han Fei was not afraid of Yi Baiyu's sword at all. Of course, if the weapon in Yi Baiyu's hand was replaced by a divine weapon, when Han Fei thought of this, he felt uneasy. No, if the other party really had a divine weapon, what should he do? He absolutely didn't believe that there were no divine weapons in the big clans in the Thousand-Star City. Once they fell into the hands of people like Yi Baiyu, they would probably kill him in minutes. Seeing Han Fei suddenly frowning, Yi Baiyu asked, "What are you thinking about?" Han Fei asked, "How fast are you?" As soon as Yi Baiyu mentioned speed, a proud look appeared on his face. "It's not accurate. If your current speed is 1, I'm about 10. If I use my maximum potential, I should be able to reach 20. Han Fei. At that time, Han Fei was dumbfounded. My current speed is not slow. I only use about 50% of it. That is to say, Yi Baiyu is 10 times faster than me? If I use the shadow swimming art to the extreme, I can probably reach 4. If I use Little Gold's possession, this number should be about 6 or 7. Han Fei's eyelids couldn't help but twitch a few times. If he used the majestic mystic spell in his perfect state, he might be able to exceed 10. The majestic mystic spell could increase his attack by nearly 5 times. But Han Fei wasn't sure if he could surpass Yi Baiyu in terms of speed. Han Fei suddenly said, "If I have your speed, what do you think?" "Impossible." Chapter 468. Yi Baiyu's answer was very firm. He said without hesitation, "I am 1 in a million. My spiritual heritage grows very fast. You probably haven't heard of my spiritual beast. Anyway, it's very fast." Han Fei grinned. "What if?" Yi Baiyu thought carefully for a moment. "With your physique, my speed, and the intensity of your attack just now, I can easily defeat you. You'll be one of the top 10 talents in the entire Thousand-Star City." "Only top 10? Yi Baiyu staggered and said helplessly, "What do you mean by only the top 10? Do you know how terrifying the top 10 in the entire Thousand-Star City are? As long as you don't die, you're practically invincible." Han Fei frowned. It seems to be quite strong. Before he met Yi Baiyu, he had never thought that he was slow. But at this moment, he seemed to have understood something. In the past, because he didn't have spiritual energy, he didn't have the opportunity to practice the top speed combat skills. But now it was different. He seemed to have an inexhaustible supply of spiritual energy in the short term. If they couldn't make the best use of them, how could they be the best in the level 3 fishery? Suddenly, Han Fei changed the topic. "No matter how fast you are, so what? Strength was the key to everything. No matter how fast you are, do you think you can escape after killing someone on the dragon boat? You can't. However, when one's strength reaches the pinnacle, they will be able to." "Nonsense," Yi Baiyu sneered. "There are peak-level hanging fishers on the dragon boats. Even if you were as strong as a peak-level dangling fisher, you might not be able to escape the pursuit of a powerhouse of that level. But I can. A peak-level hanging fisher couldn't leave the dragon boat. If you think you can catch me with your fishing skills, you must be dreaming. Wait, you tricked me." Han Fei grinned. TSK, I find that you're not a bad person." Yi Baiyu frowned. "Are you going to kill people on the dragon boats?" "Heh, you can't kill it. You're too slow." Han Fei shrugged. "Did I say that I was going to the dragon boats to kill people?" Yi Baiyu stared at Han Fei, trying to see through him. "Who are you exactly?" Han Fei suddenly smiled. "Me? Evil ghosts took their souls, and impermanence took their lives. I'm Fan Datong, the black ghost of the black and white ghosts in the level 3 fishery." "Rice bucket." Han Fei's face changed. "You're the rice bucket." Yi Baiyu swam to Han Fei's side leisurely and shrugged. "Who named it? Your intimidating demeanor is ruined by your name. Besides, why aren't you on the wanted list of the dragon boats?" Han Fei rolled his eyes. "How long ago did you catch up with the list?" Yi Baiyu replied, "Less than 2 months. TSK, 2 months is enough for everyone on the wanted list to be replaced." Yi Baiyu nodded. "That's true." "Huh." Suddenly, Yi Baiyu's expression changed. Someone is coming. With a swish, Yi Baiyu disappeared from Han Fei's side and appeared a kilometer away in the blink of an eye. This speed really put Han Fei to shame. However, no matter how fast Yi Baiyu was, his perception range was not as large as his. Just now, he had sensed Tang Ji's arrival. Hiu, the white shadow, came back quickly, and Yi Baiyu said to Han Fei excitedly, "You're screwed. A strong enemy is coming. How about it? Give me the demon spiritual fruit, and I'll try to carry you." Han Fei grinned. "Give me your sea-swallowing seashell, and I'll consider making friends with you." Yi Baiyu was lost for words. Sincerity is the most important thing in making friends. It's too much for you to ask for my sea-swallowing seashell. Then it's not too much for you to ask for my demon spiritual fruit, is it? Of course, Han Fei wouldn't hand over the demon's spiritual fruit. He had a nagging feeling that it was rather unusual to summon a plant-type, living being. If Yi Baiyu weren't here, he would have studied it carefully. While they talked, Tang Ji's figure appeared in their sight. Not just that, Han Fei also sensed that Chao Qiu, Wang Ziqian, and Mu Ling appeared 10 kilometers away. Tanga looked at Yi Baiyu first. He frowned slightly and pointed the halberd in his hand at Yi Baiyu subconsciously. "Get lost." Yi Baiyu said, "Tanga, I didn't offend you. Besides, you can't hit me. Don't be too cocky." Han Fei grinned. "The two of us can beat you at once." Stunned, Yi Baiyu suddenly asked, "Do you know each other? So, you're from the Thousand Star City? But why haven't I seen you before?" Han Fei said, "Because you're too fast to have any friends." Yi Baiyu smiled faintly. "You two can't catch up with me, nor can you hit me. How about I trade soul crystals for the demon spiritual fruit?" Tanga frowned. "The demon spiritual fruit?" Han Fei asked telepathically, "Do you know it?" Tanga said, "I do. It's a spiritual fruit that can enhance the soul. It's hard to find, even on the steps into the sea, where countless people offer sacrifices every day. It's hard to get one." Han Fei looked at Yi Baiyu. "How do you want to trade it?" Yi Baiyu said 10 for 1. Han Fei's eyes slightly shivered. This pretty boy had 10 soul crystals? Han Fei grinned. 10 soul crystals? I can just grab 2 sea-swallowing seashells, and I'll have them. Do you want to trade it for me? Yi Baiyu frowned. "That's a lot. The yield of soul crystals is no more than that of the demon spiritual fruit. 10 is already a lot." Han Fei gently blew a bubble at Yi Baiyu. "No, if you want to trade 100 soul crystals." "Pooh!" Yi Baiyu was so angry that he laughed. "You're really greedy. 100 soul crystals? Unless you loot the entire steps into the sea. If I had so many soul crystals, would I need to trade for the demon spiritual fruit with you?" Han Fei shrugged. "Then forget it." For a moment, the three of them were at an impasse. Yi Baiyu stared at Han Fei and Tanga for a long time. When he finally decided to leave, his expression changed again. Someone else came? Chao Qiu, Mu Ling, 2 swords? When Chao Qiu saw Yi Baiyu, he immediately roared, "Fan Datong, kill him. Kill him now. He has a lot of treasures." Yi Baiyu looked at Han Fei. "You all know each other? Why don't I know you?" Han Fei grinned. "Because I'm looking at your back." As he spoke, Han Fei moved, and the whetstone in his hand enlarged by dozens of meters. The blood-drinking knife had already been launched. On Tang Ji's side, he swung his halberd horizontally and leaped into the air, and the sea water within 100 meters rolled back. On Two Swords' side, the 2 swords floated in the air, turning into sword shadows all over the sky, blocking the way. Mu Ling used a weird footwork and stepped out a sealing array, a weird killing array, and a water wall shield array in a row. As for Chao Qiu, a blazing fish appeared in front of him, and an extremely strong white light shone in the sea. In an instant, everyone's eyes seemed to be so dazzled that they couldn't open them, and they all used their perception to find him. Immediately afterward, a laser flashed, and the area within a radius of 100 meters was directly enveloped by an illusion. Yi Baiyu was stunned. Who the F***CK did I piss off? Why did so many people attack me all of a sudden? Although all directions were blocked, Yi Baiyu was indeed the fastest guy in the same realm. His figure was as fast as a F***king bolt of lightning in the sea. There were so many attacks, but none of them hurt him. But what made Yi Baiyu speechless was why all the water in his field of vision turned into knives. He only felt that the knife intent was magnificent, and there were knives in the sky, on the ground, in all directions. Flash! Bam! In the next second, Yi Baiyu bumped into a purple seal. Yi Baiyu asked, "When did you set up the six-gate formation?" Han Fei grinned. "When you find that you can't run away no matter where you go, when you notice that the knife is coming, look, as I told you before, it's good to be fast, but you're not strong enough. What's the use of speed?" In fact, Han Fei himself was in a cold sweat. It was too F***king fast. If he hadn't used the infinity water at the beginning, if his perception range wasn't far enough to inform his companions in advance, if it weren't for the blinding effect of Cao Qiu, and if it weren't for the fact that all the people here were the best of their kind, he really wouldn't have been able to trap this guy. When the spirit-forbidden net came down and Yi Baiyu was about to be caught, Han Fei suddenly saw a white mark appear in the six-gate formation. In the six-gate formation, there was only a piece of white fish skin left. Han Fei was dumbfounded and said in shock, "Can it run away?" The hexagon starfish was also stunned. "No, I didn't feel any abnormality in the formation." Cao Qiu exclaimed, "Damn it, it's the star teleportation technique of the Yi family. Oh my god, this guy has actually learned this technique." Mu Ling exclaimed, "Genius." Tanga didn't speak, but just looked at the white fish skin in a daze, as if thinking that he was not as strong as he thought. Han Fei wailed, "My soul crystal, did it just run away like this?" Everyone, suddenly a voice came. "Fan Datong, I'll remember you. As I said, in terms of speed, I am unparalleled in the world. When I find an offensive technique, I will fight with you again." Yi Baiyu left, leaving Han Fei and the other four people staring at each other. Seeing that everyone was thinking, Han Fei couldn't help but ask curiously, "What is the star teleportation technique?" Cao Qiu shook his head slightly. "I'm not sure. However, every big clan in the Thousand-Star City has its own heritage. This heritage is not only the accumulation of time, but also these weird and forbidden techniques." Han Fei suddenly asked, "So is Sun Mu's Immortals slaying formation?" Cao Qiu nodded. "Yes, so is the Immortals slaying formation and the star teleportation technique. However, these combat skills are particularly difficult to cultivate, so it's normal that they can't be cultivated." Wang Zitian said lightly, "Do you think the Immortals slaying formation you saw is already very powerful? In fact, it may be that Sun Mu is not good at it." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Then what about the star teleportation technique? Even a flash stone couldn't dodge it, and he ran away?" Cao Qiu shrugged. "I don't know. I haven't cultivated it. How can I know?" Mu Ling smiled and said, "The flash stone is just the most basic escape method. In fact, there are many arrays that can block the flash stone. Of course, in the level 3 fishery, it is cost-effective to use the flash stone. There's basically no way to block it, except in special circumstances." Tanga didn't speak, but said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "There seems to be no one on this floor. Don't hang out with Cao Qiu anymore. This guy's up to no good. He wants to cooperate with you just to find someone to take the blame for him." Han Fei replied, "I know. That's exactly what I'm going to do." On the other side, Han Fei looked at Cao Qiu and the others. "Have you seen Xie Xiaoan?" Cao Qiu nodded. "No. All right, where did she go?" Han Fei said to Tang Gu via voice transmission, "Leave with Mu Ling for a while. I'll find you later." Tang Gu said to Mu Ling, "Let's go first." Mu Ling glanced at Han Fei, nodded slightly, and the two of them quickly left. When their figures disappeared from his sight, Cao Qiu said in surprise, "Huh, I don't know when it started, but I always feel that Tang Gu has become our ally." Han Fei said, "This is called mutual appreciation." Wang Zitian frowned. "He doesn't seem to be hostile to you, which is not in line with Tang Ji's character." Han Fei smiled. "What's his character?" Wang Zitian said, "He can't tolerate people like you. At least in any case, he usually won't get along with people like you." Han Fei's face darkened. "Make it clear. What kind of person am I?" Wang Zetian smiled lightly. Rob from the top to the bottom. In order to achieve your goal, you will not break your hand. You and Chao Qiuqiu are the same kind of people. Han Fei snorted. What? People from the countryside are really different from you city people. Han Fei said lazily, forget it, forget it. Let's go our separate ways. Chao Qiu, you don't really want to kill these people, do you? In fact, you just want to discuss them, tease them, and hit them. Hey, I'll take the blame. However, this 201st floor seems to have been cleared by someone. Then our fate ends here. It's up to you whether you want to go or stay. Chao Qiu hurriedly said, don't. We've been here for so many floors. We have a friendship. Han Fei sneered. Friendship? Okay, when I can enter the 1,000-star city one day, let's talk about friendship again. Chao Qiu chased after Han Fei and said, how long do we have to wait? We have a deep friendship now. I think if we work together, we can surpass my brother and maybe break through the 250th floor. Han Fei looked at Chao Qiu with a faint smile, which made the little fatty a little embarrassed. Chao Qiu took 2 steps back and said awkwardly, what's wrong? Han Fei smiled. You want us to be your free fighters, right? Break through the 250th floor? Do you want me to help you break through? Or do you want 2 swords to help you break through? Forget it. You two can fight to however many floors you want to fight to next. So be it. The 200th floor is not a small number. Don't forget, you only broke through the 148th floor last time. Han Fei walked away coolly without looking back, leaving Chao Qiu where he was. Wang Zetian came over. Let's go. Let's find a place to make a sacrifice. Chao Qiu curled his lips. I thought we were all good friends. Wang Zetian shook his head slightly. There are only interests between you. How can we be friends? You need him to help you deal with Sun Mu and the others. We both know that we can't kill them, but our goal has basically been achieved. I guess they are all vomiting and having diarrhea outside at this moment. And he, although I don't know why, seems to have some hatred for Sun Mu and the others. Otherwise, there is no reason for him to be with you. There is another possibility, which is that he wants to get more sea-swallowing seashells. Chao Qiu secretly glanced at Wang Zetian, thinking if I tell you that Fan Datong is Han Fei. Oh no, Wang Zetian doesn't know who Han Fei is. Thinking of this, Chao Qiu suddenly said, forget it, I don't want to fight anymore. I want to go out. Wang Zetian's eyes widened. We've already reached the 200th floor. Why do you want to stop? Chao Qiu twisted his body. Why do I still want to fight? Anyway, I can't surpass my brother no matter how hard I try. Then why should I continue? I might as well go out and see them make a fool of themselves. Yes, I'm going back to the 1,000-star city and then tell everyone about it. Wang Zetian, Han Fei actually quite liked little fatty Chao. However, he had long seen that although Chao Qiu was arrogant, the children of the 7 major sects and the major clans all seemed to give in to this kid. This undoubtedly showed that the Chao family status in the 1,000-star city was not low. Also, on the premise that they knew Chao Qiu wanted to mess with them, why did these people still maintain this attitude? Although Chao Qiu also fought and beat him, he didn't hurt him, which was the biggest concession he could make. If you made friends with such a person, you might get yourself killed. It would be unwise to integrate into that circle if you didn't belong to it. After a while, Han Fei had already found Tang Ge. He didn't go far and was always within Han Fei's perception range. Seeing Han Fei, Tang Ge grinned and gave Han Fei a bear hug. How did it go? What happened after the 200th floor? Han Fei glanced at him, only to hear Mu Ling say, you guys talk. I'm going for a walk. Looking at Mu Ling's leaving figure, Han Fei couldn't help but exclaim, good. Your girlfriend is quite sensible. No, don't talk nonsense. She is not. Han Fei patted Tang Ge on the shoulder. Come on, don't brag. You like her. There's so many people from the big clans, but you still scolded them coldly. What are you afraid of? With that, Han Fei waved his hand, and a sea-swallowing seashell fell in front of Tang Ge. Take it. We are brothers. You took care of me before. Now that I have something good, I can't leave it to you. Tang Ge frowned. Are you still pretending to be nice to me? I don't want your things. I have a lot of them here, too. I just robbed them from above. Han Fei smiled. Keep them. I have a lot of sea-swallowing seashells. I don't need your dozens. Also, what do you mean my things? They belong to us. There are some soul crystals inside. My perception range has reached a bottleneck and can't be improved anymore. There are not many soul crystals. Here you are. Soul crystals? Tengu was taken aback. He took the sea-swallowing seashell and found that there were 100 soul crystals and millions of mid-quality pearls in it. His eyelids twitched. So many? Han Fei smiled. I robbed them all. The Thousand-Star City is not as good as the Blue Sea Town. Do you think I don't know that? How many of those guys on the 200th floor are simple? We don't have their wealth, so we have to create our own. Anyway, we can't lose to them. Tengu hesitated, but no buts. After the steps into the sea, you and I will be far apart from each other again. The next time we meet, I'm afraid it will be when I arrive at the Thousand-Star City. I don't want to hear people say that Tengu, a heavenly talent, is declining when I arrive at the Thousand-Star City in the future. Tengu laughed. That's impossible. Han Fei also grinned. Then take it. Also, don't mess with Sun Mu and the others. Look at me, I dare to fight them. If you ask me to kill them, I dare not. However, it doesn't mean I won't do it in the future. One day, I will get back at them. While talking, Han Fei saw that Tengu was looking at him, and he couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Tengu said in relief, "Han Fei, you've changed. You are more confident, optimistic, stronger, and most importantly, very smart." Smack! Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "Bullsh asterisk T. Okay, I won't go with you for the rest of the journey. I have to find Xia Xiaochan and then have a good adventure in the steps into the sea. Our journey has only just begun." Tengu held the sea-swallowing seashell in his hand and nodded heavily. "Okay, when you come to the Thousand-Star City in the future, I want to see her true face. What kind of girl can make you yearn for her day and night? Hey, she's really beautiful, but it's not enough to say that I yearn for her day and night. This stinky girl never makes things easy for me." After a moment, Mu Ling knew that the two of them had finished talking when she saw them walking over with smiles on their faces. They were close. Han Fei said, "Sister-in-law, I'm leaving. Wait for me at your wedding banquet." "I'm leaving." Mu Ling and Tengu both blushed. When they looked at Han Fei again, he had already left without looking back and waved his hand behind his back. Looking at Han Fei's leaving figure, Tengu clenched his fists and murmured, "Don't worry. When you come to the Thousand-Star City, I will definitely stand above all the heroes." Mu Ling gently grabbed Tang Ji's arm. "Your brother is really carefree." Chapter 469. Mo Fian didn't know that she had dodged a bullet. She was just a little more vigilant. As far as she knew, at such a critical moment, Chao Qiao and the others all ran away, which was typical abnormal. Based on her understanding of Chao Qiao, although this little fatty was full of evil tricks, he was good to his friends. Although many people wanted to kill him, in fact, they would protect him at critical moments. So she was sure that Chao Qiao had a reason to run away. After going down to the 201st floor, Mo Fian didn't go to make a sacrifice. She was not here to fight, but to solve her doubts. However, when she found that the people on the 201st floor were all gone, she couldn't help but feel strange. It was reasonable to say that those who could reach the 201st floor should be stronger than those on the 200th floor. Who cleared the 201st floor? Just as she was looking around for traces of other people, the sea began to shake violently. There seemed to be a fierce battle somewhere, the kind of intense kind. As a genius, Mo Fian naturally liked to join in the fun, so she immediately swam in the direction of the battle. However, just after she swam for a short distance, she saw a thin man also swimming in that direction. Isn't this the individual who is with Chao Qiao? Swish! The soft sword was unsheathed, and a sword light swept past. Mo Fian stopped in front of the man. Brother, where are you going?" After seeing Mo Fian, Xia Xiaochan was stunned at first, and then she was disgusted by Mo Fian's delicate figure and charm. Gee, so disgusting. Mo Fian's face changed, and her face fell. As a woman, shouldn't you praise me when you see such a beautiful woman? Why are you disgusting? Mo Fian's face was cold. Say it again if you dare. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. Just talk. Why are you twisting? Boys don't like it. M.O. Fian. M.O. Fian was amused and asked, Then what kind of woman do you think men like? Xia Xiaochan said straightforwardly, Of course I like women who can fight. M.O. Fian. M.O. Fian was so angry that she almost laughed. Is he a F***king straight man? It was the biggest joke in the world. This was the first time she heard a man say that he liked girls who could fight. Are you a masochist? Or is there something wrong with your head? Xia Xiaochan thought for a while. Han Fei was like this. So, he nodded with certainty. Yes, you're disgusting. Shut up. Swoosh. M.O. Fian swept out a sword light without hesitation. However, who was Xia Xiaochan? How could it be struck by an ordinary sword light? She casually swung her saber and destroyed the sword light. Xia Xiaochan said coldly, I know you. You are a bad woman. Now that you've met me, hand over your sea-swallowing seashell. M.O. Fian was slightly taken aback. Is this guy so reckless? You don't like women, and you want me to hand over my sea-swallowing seashell? However, the next moment, M.O. Fian's heart tightened. This man was too fast. Xia Xiaochan, who had disguised herself as a man with the metamorphosis water, had resumed her identity as a hunter. As soon as he made his move, he immediately went into stealth mode. Almost at the same time, in the blink of an eye, Xia Xiaochan had stabbed M.O. Fian with 2 daggers. It was no wonder that M.O. Fian said Xia Xiaochan was fast. If she knew that Xia Xiaochan had teleported here, how would she react? Ding-ling-ling. When Xia Xiaochan's dagger swept past M.O. Fian's waist, a big hole was left on her outer clothes, and inside, she was wearing a layer of fish scale inner armor. 7 tails. M.O. Fian moved her feet and dozens of sword lights flashed, and 7 centipede-like chains suddenly appeared under her feet. On both sides of the chains, there were sharp blades. These 7 tails were a bit like Han Fei's 9-star chain. Xia Xiaochan was so familiar with this that she could even guess what M.O. Fian would do with her eyes closed. As a result, when the 7 tails swept across, M.O. Fian was shocked to find that almost every second, a wound was left on her body, and her spiritual energy protective cover was directly cut to pieces, but her 7 tails didn't even touch Xia Xiaochan. Humph! I'm going to stab through your iron shell. In an instant, the seawater was full of shadow marks. At that moment, M.O. Fian didn't say a word but held her amulet and watched her amulet being cut dozens of times in the blink of an eye. When a fierce double dagger stabbed at her, with a crack, one of M.O. Fian's amulets was cut to pieces. At that time, M.O. Fian was shocked. Which damn heavenly talent did I encounter this time? How could he be so strong? With such strength, fighting skills, and speed, he was definitely a genius among the 7 major sections. Why didn't I know him? Yes, just like Fan Datong, he was strong enough to fight the Immortals' slaying formation alone, but no one knew him. Poison explosion. When a circle of black smoke dispersed, M.O. Fian took a closer look, only to find that Xia Xiaochan had already appeared 100 meters away. At this moment, she was holding a spiritual fruit in her hand, tilting her head and chewing the spiritual fruit while looking at her. Xia Xiaochan asked, Did you not use your full strength? Why do I feel that you are very weak? M.O. Fian's head almost exploded. I'm weak, M.O. Fian said coldly. Damn you, you've pissed me off. Don't you like girls who are good at fighting? Then I'll show you what it means to be good at fighting. After saying that, a giant eel that was 100 feet long appeared. However, this eel had a peculiar appearance. It had 7 tails on its head. Gee, it's not a centipede. Xia Xiaochan frowned in disdain. Why is your spiritual beast so ugly? M.O. Fian couldn't take it anymore. How many times had she been despised since they met? In particular, the guy's disdainful eyes and the sound of disdain made her feel inexplicably irritated. Ugly? Ignorant man. In your next life, remember not to say the word ugly to a girl. Swish. Swish, swish, the giant eel split into 7 in an instant. With a thought from M.O. Fian, the 7 giant eels turned into 7 surging currents, rolling up the seawater within 100 meters in the blink of an eye. Chilla. Electric currents suddenly burst out, and a blue arc spread in the seawater. Xia Xiaochan had disappeared the moment the eel turned into water. Because she was too fast, she turned into a shadow in the water and didn't attract Mo Fian's attention. Pu Qi, while Mo Fian was stunned, she felt that her waist was pricked. She looked down, only to see a hand reaching out to her belly. BM, Xia Xiaochan was knocked away, and a strange and creepy power condensed next to Mo Fian. Xia Xiaochan's body was still flashing with electric arcs, and her face was slightly pale. The electric arcs are not bad, much stronger than those of the piercing electricity jellyfish and the dragon eel. Mo Fian stuffed a healing pill in her mouth and said angrily, "Don't compare my seven-tailed poisonous eel with those garbage creatures, you damn man." Xia Xiaochan curled her lips. "However, it's not invincible. What else do you have? I heard that you were on the same level as Sun Mu and Yang Diu. It seems that you are still weak. Don't call me weak or ugly." The first move of Water Dragon Chant, 2 dragons playing with pearls. Xia Xiaochan looked around and quickly turned invisible. The seawater on both sides surged, and 2 huge water dragons were condensed and lunged at her. Flash! Xia Xiaochan was shocked to find that she had been locked on and the water was restricting her. Seeing that Xia Xiaochan came out, Mo Fian said coldly, "Sun Mu has the immortal slaying formation, and I have the water dragon chant. Do you really think I'm a vase?" The pressure from all directions was getting stronger and stronger. The 2 water dragons were too huge. Even if Xia Xiaochan could flash, she probably couldn't get out of the range of the 2 water dragons. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan's eyebrows moved, and a shadow flashed by. Huh! Xia Xiaochan opened her mouth and roared, and a real dragon roar echoed in all directions. As for the 2 water dragons that were about to play with the pearls, they instantly dissipated into nothingness, blown up by the dragon's roar. Pooh! Mo Fian was not far away from Xia Xiaochan. Being roared like this, she immediately felt that her internal organs were rolling and her blood was surging. She was so shocked that she vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. "Who the hell are you?" Mo Fian was shocked. He broke the water dragon chant with 1 move. Who was this man? Where the hell did Xiao find these 2 people? Xia Xiaochan said coldly. "Anything else?" "No, it's my turn." Chapter 470. Perhaps because sound traveled fast in the water, Han Fei had already arrived before the battle between Xia Xiaochan and Mo Fian was over. The moment Mo Fian saw Han Fei, she crushed a flash stone and ran away without any hesitation. Mo Fian only felt that the origins of these 2 people were too strange. He was originally a monstrous genius with unparalleled talent, but he was unknown until now. With her strength, she wasn't sure if she could deal with one of them, not to mention Fan Datong, who could challenge the immortal slaying formation on his own. Mo Fian didn't think that her water dragon roar could compete with the immortal's slaying formation at full power, so she chose to leave. After flashing out a flash stone, Mo Fian didn't stop at all. Her figure faded and disappeared from the 201st floor. It was not that she didn't want to continue, but that she didn't think it was meaningful to continue. Even a guy like Chao Tian could only reach the 208th floor. No matter how deep it was, she didn't think Chao Tian could reach the 250th floor. But was the steps into the sea really only 250th floor? No one knew about this because no one had ever been there. Therefore, she instinctively felt that with the ability of a peak-level dangling fisher, she could only reach the 250th floor. That was the end. When Han Fei arrived, Xia Xiaochan rolled her eyes at him. "Why are you here so soon?" That Mo Fian is about to show her full strength. Han Fei was speechless. "Where's the giant arowana? Did you release the giant arowana? How could I have come so fast if I hadn't heard the dragon roar?" Xia Xiaochan's eyebrows flashed, and her momentum suddenly dropped. Xia Xiaochan made a face at Han Fei. "Don't worry. She didn't see it. I fused with it directly." Hearing this, Han Fei was slowly relieved and asked in confusion, "Why did this woman come down too?" "I don't know, but this person is really not good. Let me tell you, her spiritual beast is a giant eel, A seven-tailed giant eel, the ugly kind. Really? Yes. Han Fei looked around. Forget it. Leave her alone. The 201st floor has been cleared, and that person has left. We can cultivate here for a while. Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up. A breakthrough? Han Fei shook his head. No, let's see how many soul crystals you have first. Soul crystals? Xia Xiaochan didn't realize, until she was free, that she could increase the range of her perception. After a while, Xia Xiaochan sat on the ground and spread out the soul crystals. 47 in total. What about you? Han Fei also sat on the ground and waved his hand, and 86 soul crystals fell to the ground. He gave Tengu 100 soul crystals, which were all the soul crystals he had left. So many? Xia Xiaochan exclaimed and looked at Han Fei in shock. Han Fei grinned and said, there weren't many. When we were on the 200th floor, they all had diarrhea and the seawater turned yellow. I threatened them with the antidote and forced them to hand over their swallowing seashells. As a result, the number of soul crystals has increased. Xia Xiaochan imagined the scene. Fortunately, she didn't see the subsequent scenes, or she would have vomited. Then let's split it in half. Xia Xiaochan secretly glanced at Han Fei, pulled some of Han Fei's pile to her, and bared her big white teeth at Han Fei. Han Fei was speechless. Here you go. I've eaten them. Xia Xiaochan. That's what I want to tell you. The strength of your soul is related to the strength of your spiritual power. And the strength of your spiritual power is related to the size of your perception range. I've reached a bottleneck. Bottleneck! Xia Xiaochan jumped up from the ground and looked at Han Fei incredulously. What's the bottleneck? Han Fei blinked. For now, it's 5,000 meters. Han Fei didn't intend to conceal this matter. He felt that the greatest benefit of the steps into the sea was that it could improve people's soul power and increase their perception range. If he told her about it, Xia Xiaochan would have a reference. Xia Xiaochan's eyes widened. So fast. When did you absorb it? Why did you absorb it so fast? Han Fei thought for a moment. Well, it may be a matter of personal talent. Hurry up and absorb it. As it happens, the 200th floor has been cleared by us, and no one should come here in short time. Besides, there have been a lot of battles during this period. I think it's time to try to make a breakthrough to become an advanced dangling fisher. Xia Xiaochan didn't stand on ceremony with Han Fei. She pulled all the soul crystals over. Then, with a wave of her hand, she threw out more than 1,000 swallowing seashells. Han Fei's blood froze. More than 1,000 swallowing seashells. In terms of robbery, he was still not as good as Xia Xiaochan. Is this girl crazy? How did she get them? Xia Xiaochan said, there are too many things inside. Let's take out all the good things and sacrifice the bad ones. These swallowing seashells should be enough. Han Fei also waved his hand, and a pile of more than 500 swallowing seashells was piled on the ground. He couldn't help but rub his hands. He really liked the pleasure of opening boxes. So, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan divided the work and got busy. At this moment, the hexagon starfish also ran down from Han Fei's shoulder. Looking at the pile of swallowing seashells, its 6 big eyes were glowing. Han Fei said, go away. There's nothing for you for the time being. I have to calculate the value of these swallowing seashells first. The hexagon starfish said, I also contributed. I threw the 6 gate arrays one after another. Han Fei's eyes flickered. Yes, you also contributed. So, when I see a shiny stone, I will throw it away first. But I can throw it away, but you can't secretly stuff it into your treasure house. I have to calculate the value. The hexagon starfish's 6 big eyes rolled like a top, and he said repeatedly, no. The joyful journey of unboxing began. Han Fei said, this one, 3 mid-quality spiritual weapons, 6 low-quality spiritual weapons, no high-quality spiritual weapons, 110,000 mid-quality pearls, a set of battle suits, 3 combat skills, but none of them are good. Han Fei said, here are all stones with 1 high-quality spiritual weapon, 260,000 mid-quality pearls, 5 combat skills, 11 mid-quality spiritual weapons. Big deal. 3 high-quality spiritual weapons, ultra-quality materials, 102 flash stones, 2 million mid-quality pearls. Oh my god, my sea-swallowing seashells are all stuffed. For the first 4 hours, Han Fei was still immersed in the thrill of unboxing. But as time went on, he almost dozed off. In front of the hexagon starfish, all kinds of stones were placed like mountains. This guy secretly took a piece and threw it into his treasure house, thinking that Han Fei didn't see it. In fact, Han Fei didn't bother to explain. There were too many King things. He felt that his IQ was not high enough. It seemed that he couldn't count them all. In the end, Han Fei simply marked the value of all the treasures in the sea-swallowing seashells according to the value of mid-quality spiritual weapons. Materials and weapons above mid-quality spiritual weapons, such as flash stones and other special items, were regarded as good things and kept for himself. Everything else was used as sacrifices. So, 2 days later, Han Fei sorted out a total of 142 superior-grade spiritual weapons and 68 superior-grade battle armors, 1,308 mid-quality spiritual weapons, 201 mid-quality battle suits, 1,000 ultra-quality pearls. He didn't know whose sea-swallowing seashell he dug out. The guy was really rich. 300,000 high-quality pearls, 800 million mid-quality pearls. Han Fei didn't know how to spend it all. He felt that he should go to the ghost ship and buy all the spiritual fruits he could buy. There were a total of 12,008 flash stones. Han Fei also didn't know how to use them. He felt that he would never be able to use them up. In addition to the above, there were 51 treasure maps, 386 ultra-quality materials, 2,908 high-quality materials. There were a total of 928 combat skills, of which 901 were directly classified as useless by Han Fei. Of the remaining 27, 9 were demon-level high-quality combat skills, and some were auxiliary combat skills. As for the rest, except for the spiritual fruits that could improve physique and spiritual power, they were all put away by Han Fei. The rest of the things below mid-quality spiritual weapons were simply innumerable. It took Han Fei a full 600 sea-swallowing seashells to store them all. Among them, the hexagon starfish didn't take away much, but Han Fei didn't bother to take it back. In the past, if the hexagon starfish stole so many things, he would have skinned it. But now, small amounts of money. Han Fei originally wanted to calculate how much money he and Xia Xiaochan had robbed. But at this moment, he felt that math was not enough, so he simply gave up. It was too King much. Who would be able to calculate this? In the end, Han Fei divided these things above mid-quality spiritual weapons into 2 piles. Each pile had exactly 80 sea-swallowing seashells. Of the 80, at least 60 were filled with money, and the remaining 20 were all kinds of weapons, materials, and flash stones. The remaining sea-swallowing seashells were filled with fishing boats. When Han Fei went out of the steps into the sea, there were still a lot of sea-swallowing seashells. At that time, he could consider the real million knife art. It wasn't until the 5th day after Han Fei counted the sea-swallowing seashells that Xia Xiaochan woke up. Xia Xiaochan immediately looked at Han Fei. "Hey, how many soul crystals have you eaten? Why is it that I've absorbed more than 100 and now I'm only 1,900 meters away, but you've already reached 5,000 meters?" Chapter 471. Han Fei was stunned. Xia Xiaochan's perception range had increased to 1,900 meters. This number was completely beyond his expectations. According to Chao Qiu, Xia Xiaochan's perception range was at most 1,200 meters. How did she get the extra 700 meters? Could it be that Xia Xiaochan also had a cultivation method similar to the God-scaring painting? However, Han Fei didn't need to explain it to Xia Xiaochan. He just needed to say, "I'm talented," and he would be stabbed twice at most. He was used to it. In the next 3 days, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan didn't leave the 201st floor. It took Xia Xiaochan 3 days and less than 50 spiritual fruits to complete the breakthrough from an intermediate dangling fisher to an advanced dangling fisher. Because he had a lot of money, Han Fei also sacrificed twice to summon sea creatures for Xia Xiaochan to practice and stabilize her cultivation. As expected, he didn't summon demon-shattering vines, but 2-level, 39 exotic crabs and octopuses were summoned. The octopus, in particular, was as strong as the freak octopus. Creatures like octopuses were usually very smart and had their own talents in fighting. Han Fei was shocked. Han Fei also ate more than 50 spiritual fruits and tried to make a breakthrough. In the end, he had accidentally failed to break through, but his data had also changed. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 36, intermediate dangling fisher, spiritual energy 193, 8356, 5086, spiritual heritage level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish level 30, weapons blue sea wandering dragon daggers, water dividing seal, blood drinking knife, main art void breaking technique, volume 4 of void fishing, demon level divine quality. His upper limit of spiritual energy didn't increase much, even less than 100 points. However, there was still a change after all. It meant that he still had room for growth. He planned to wait for a few more days and make a breakthrough when his upper limit of spiritual energy was completely fixed. At that time, he would definitely become one of the strongest advanced dangling fishers. On this day, Xia Xiaochan said, "Okay, I'm almost done. I'll slowly stabilize my cultivation through actual combat. But why haven't you made a breakthrough yet?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Do you think everyone is like you? Do you think I'll make a breakthrough whenever I say so?" Suddenly, Han Fei asked, "Right, what's the upper limit of your spiritual energy?" Xia Xiaochan closed her eyes and sensed it. 4,499 points. That's high, right? How about you? Han Fei forced a smile. Me? A little less than you. Xia Xiaochan smiled smugly and thought to herself, "It's fine as long as it's less than me. I've finally surpassed you." As for the specific amount, she didn't ask, nor did she bother to ask. However, Xia Xiaochan didn't notice that Han Fei frowned slightly. 4,499 points was equivalent to 4,500 points. Xia Xiaochan should be level 37 now, which was much higher than that of ordinary people. Ordinary people would only have about 3,000 points at most. Even if he could dig deeper, it would be difficult for the number to exceed 3,500. However, Xia Xiaochan not only had a wider range of perception than ordinary people, but the upper limit of her spiritual energy was also much higher. In the same way, Xia Xiaochan's physique was probably not weak at all now, even comparable to that of a peak-level dangling fisher. Han Fei thought to himself, Xia Xiaochan still has a secret, but this secret may not even be known by her. Han Fei said, "Let's go to the next floor. If I'm right, the difficulty of each floor below will gradually begin to increase. Now, the cost of a sacrifice is already very expensive. If it's not necessary, let's not waste it." Xia Xiaochan wondered, "We have so much money. Aren't we afraid?" Han Fei smiled and said, "What if? Besides, so what if we have more money? We'll have to use it in the future. Don't forget, in addition to the level 3 fishery, we still have to go to the unknown place." On the next few floors, as Han Fei expected, there was no one at all, and they only met one or two occasionally. Han Fei made a rule with Xia Xiaochan. Every time they reached a floor, they didn't go to sacrifice immediately, but first swam to the edge of this floor. Then they swam around the edge. In this way, even without Little White leading the way, Han Fei could quickly find Xia Xiaochan. After all, the range of the steps into the sea had been reduced a lot. In this way, they could avoid wandering aimlessly and save precious time. What Han Fei had to do was to ask Little White to determine the direction of Xia Xiaochan swimming when he reached the edge. Then, he would go in the opposite direction and soon find Xia Xiaochan. As such, before the 207th floor, the two of them had only encountered some level 39 exotic creatures of all kinds and sizes, until they reached the 208th floor. This was also the place where Chao Tian stopped for the first time, according to Chao Chiu. At this moment, Han Fei was at the edge of the 208th floor, walking towards Xia Xiaochan. It only took less than half an incense stick of time for the two to meet. Han Fei asked, "Did you meet anyone?" Xia Xiaochan nodded. "No." Then the two of them each took out a sea-swallowing seashell and began to sacrifice. Maybe because they stuffed their sea-swallowing seashells too full at once, they could now sacrifice several sea-swallowing seashells at random. Even though the consumption of a single sacrifice here, converted into spiritual energy, had already exceeded 2 million points. Seeing the vibration in the water, the two of them put away their sea-swallowing seashells at the same time. Why did Han Fei sacrifice with Xia Xiaochan instead of one by one? In fact, this was also a process of self-training. After all, if they sacrificed together, the creatures summoned would be more difficult to deal with. To put it bluntly, the real purpose of them coming to the level 3 fishery was to gain experience. If it was 2 against 1, with their current strength, they might really be able to go all the way to the 250th floor without any hindrance. But at this moment, the two of them decided to fight one-on-one. If they couldn't beat the other, they would join hands. This time, a fish head suddenly emerged from the water. The fish head looked left and right, and then a web claw reached out. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan looked at each other in surprise. "Inferior manfish?" Xia Xiaochan said in astonishment. "Are they these ugly monsters?" "Both of them." Han Fei was also stunned. "They are inferior manfish, hanging fishers." Han Fei glanced at them and found that these two inferior manfish were both level 40. Besides, these two inferior manfish both had companion creatures. Han Fei's face became serious. "Attention, they also have spiritual beasts. We have to treat them as intelligent creatures." When the two inferior manfish came out, they looked puzzled as if they were saying, "Where the hell is this?" Wow. In Han Fei's body, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers flew out, and the embroidery needle in his hand surged with spiritual energy. It was not the first time that he had fought inferior manfish. When he was in the heavenly desolate city, he had killed several inferior manfish, and they were all higher than level 40. At this moment, when the inferior manfish came over with a harpoon, Han Fei used the draw technique backhand. Of course, although the inferior manfish was a little stupid, its reaction was not slow. At the moment when the draw technique was used, a big green fish also swam over and bit at Han Fei. However, a knife light flashed and half of the fish head was cut off. Wow. As soon as the inferior manfish saw that its companion was dead, it went crazy. Fearlessly, it wrapped its harpoon with powerful spiritual energy and rushed at Zhang Han. Han Fei sneered. If one knife didn't work, then two. Swish! The knife fell and the fish died. After killing this inferior manfish, Han Fei glanced at Xia Xiaochan. She had already gained the upper hand and didn't need help. However, Han Fei was a little puzzled. A level 40 inferior manfish was not strong. At least on the 200 floor, whether it was Yang Yu or Sun Mu, they could definitely kill this inferior manfish. Then why did only Chao Tian reach the 208th floor? Was it because the sacrifice here was too expensive? No. Han Fei shook his head. Those people were not short of money. Why would they refuse to come here? If it was not that they couldn't beat them, it must be the advantage of staying on the 200th floor, which was more cost-effective than fighting later. Thinking of the soul crystals he snatched, Han Fei seemed to understand something. Those be asterisk stars. Are they collecting soul crystals on the 200th floor? While Han Fei was pondering, Xia Xiaochan had already killed the inferior manfish. She grabbed a harpoon and patted Han Fei casually. Look, just give me a harpoon. Han Fei gestured at Xia Xiaochan. Look, I'm not much better than you. You gave me a mid-quality spiritual weapon, which is not as good as your harpoon. Xia Xiaochan asked. Are we going to the lower floor? Wait, I want to summon it again. Xia Xiaochan. After a while, another inferior manfish died under Han Fei's knife. This time, the steps into the sea gave Han Fei a fish scale. Han Fei fiddled with it for a while and found that its quality was comparable to a high-quality spiritual weapon, so he threw it into Forge the Universe. Han Fei clicked his tongue and said, Xia Xiaochan, Maybe we won't meet ordinary sea creatures anymore if we go down. If my guess is right, they should all be above the level of inferior manfish. Xia Xiaochan didn't bother to think about it and said, then just go to the next floor and you'll know. You wasted a sacrifice. Ugh. Chapter 472. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan couldn't have been more frustrated in the following battles. Sure enough, as Han Fei expected, there were no ordinary marine creatures at all. The only time he met an inferior manfish was when Xia Xiaochan summoned a demon-shattering vine. Then, naturally, she obtained a demon spiritual fruit. Han Fei had seen the demon spiritual fruit a long time ago. It could improve one's soul, but Han Fei didn't think one demon spiritual fruit was enough. As he expected, Xia Xiaochan only said that her head was clearer after she ate it. However, Xia Xiaochan's perception range hadn't reached the upper limit yet, so she couldn't test how much a demon spiritual fruit could improve her soul. After the 230th floor, all the little fishmen he encountered had become level 42 little fishmen. Many of their companions were sea scorpions or cyan fish. A level 42 inferior manfish was hard enough to deal with. When they were in the heavenly desolate city, Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan usually killed the inferior manfish by cooperating or using the majestic mystic spell. But in this place, could they cooperate if they wanted to gain experience? Han Fei had such an idea, but Xia Xiaochan turned it down. On the 236th floor, after killing another inferior manfish, Xia Xiaochan sat on the ground. It's getting more and more difficult. The spiritual beasts of these inferior manfish are different. It's time to fuse them. Han Fei sat on the ground too. But they can't trap us, can they? How many floors do you think Chao Tian has reached? Xia Xiaochan thought for a moment. I estimate 250. Han Fei paused for a moment. You're calling him an idiot, aren't you? Xia Xiaochan snorted. I don't think I can reach the 250th floor if I work hard. So, do you think there will be more floors later? Han Fei thought for a moment. We're losing money, aren't we? Xia Xiaochan thought for a moment and nodded. Yes, we have to consume a sea-swallowing seashell for every 2 floors. The lower we go, the more we'll need. However, what they give us is mediocre and not enough for a sacrifice at all. Han Fei analyzed. What do you think the real purpose of the steps into the sea is? Xia Xiaochan was stunned for a moment. What purpose? But in any case, it wasn't for treasures. We're not fools. Don't we know whether we've made a profit or a loss? Han Fei shook his head. If it was the first 100 floors, it would be hard to say whether it would be a loss or a profit. But after the 100th floor, it was basically a loss. But for some people, this was a good place to train themselves. So, just treat it as paying money to gain experience. Xia Xiaochan pondered for a moment. It's good if it's only for experience. However, there are still many people who came for opportunities. Until now, we haven't seen any fortuitous encounters. Han Fei blinked and said, we looted so many sea-swallowing seashells. Isn't that an opportunity? The hexagon starfish interjected, forget it, we should go back and rob it again. Xia Xiaochan said angrily, big starfish, it's none of your business. The hexagon starfish muttered, it's too difficult and dangerous now. The hexagon starfish now understood. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan were 2 dangerous people. What inferior manfish? They could defeat all of them. Fortunately, he was a quiet, reliable starfish and never fought. Han Fei thought for a moment. Let's continue. Anyway, let's reach the 250th floor first. If it doesn't work, let's use the majestic mystic spell, or 2 against 1. On the 248th floor. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei were eating barbecue in the hexagon starfish's door. Xia Xiaochan's mouth was greasy, and she said, I found that level 43 inferior manfish is already my limit. If I fight again, I won't be able to beat it. Han Fei scoffed. Didn't you just become an advanced dangling fisher? Xia Xiaochan said angrily. Yes, I did, but I still can't cut you. Besides, I feel that the more I fight, the more the giant arowana wants to come out. Huh? Han Fei was taken aback. The giant arowana wants to come out? Xia Xiaochan nodded. Yes, I can't suppress it. As soon as it comes out, I have to borrow its power. The more I borrow its power, the more I want to use it. Han Fei wondered, isn't this a good thing? This shows that you and your spiritual beast have a mutual affinity. What the hell are you talking about? The more I use the power of the giant arowana, the harder it is for me to control myself. Han Fei's expression changed slightly. Is it so serious? Xia Xiaochan nodded. So I'm going to reach the 250th floor and not go to the next floor for now. Han Fei pondered for a moment. Maybe there's no next floor. Xia Xiaochan curled her lips. Impossible. There must be opportunities that we don't know. Otherwise, all our sea-swallowing seashells will be wasted. If we pay the price, we have to give it enough opportunities. If it doesn't, it will smash this place. Han Fei. The hexagon starfish interjected inappropriately. How can you smash such a big place? Shut up. Han Fei chuckled. Okay, I'll try my best. This damn place is really weird. Although it's an altar, I think it's a place for swindling people. The money we spent to get here is enough to buy dozens of wind god boats. If I don't get something good back, I won't be able to go out. That's right. With that, Xia Xiaochan threw all the sea-swallowing seashells to Han Fei and said, take them all. You're thick-skinned and can fight. Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, go away. Give them all to me. Do you want to starve? Xia Xiaochan said, anyway, I can't fight for the time being. I don't need them if I don't give them to you. Han Fei thought for a moment. How about this? You keep the money and give me the 20 sea-swallowing seashells with high-quality spiritual weapons and mid-quality spiritual weapons. I don't want to flash stones, and the other sea-swallowing seashells are useless to me. Xia Xiaochan frowned. What if it's not enough? Don't worry. I still have other things. Oh, by the way, Han Fei took out a sea-swallowing seashell and said, take the wind god boat, 200 yellow-blooded sea cucumbers, and dozens of treasure maps. These are all for you. Huh? Xia Xiaochan tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. Do you want to go out first? Han Fei smiled. What if? You can't go back to the upper floor of the steps into the sea. You can only go down. You and I must go out from the entrance. However, we have a lot of enemies outside. If you feel something is wrong, you go first and then find Lu Rinquang and Luo Xiaobai. Remember, don't go to the dragon boat. You can only go to the specter known as the evil shield that I told you about. Han Fei told her a lot of things, only to see Xia Xiaochan curling her lips and looking at him with a sulky face. Han Fei said with a smile, I'm just on the safe side. Xia Xiaochan snorted. Go. Annoying. If I go out, I'll wait for you outside for half a month. If you don't come out for half a month, I'll go find Xiaobai and the others. Han Fei grinned. Okay, but remember, when you wait outside, you'd better pretend to be a girl. Although the metamorphosis water can turn you into a man, you have to talk. Got it. Annoying, the 250th floor. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan still didn't meet Chao Tian. Han Fei wondered if this guy had already gone out. On the 250th floor, the place became smaller and smaller. As Chao Chiu said, the lower they went, the smaller the place became. But the slightest movement couldn't be hidden from others. After Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan sacrificed themselves, Xia Xiaochan had a hard time killing a level 45 inferior manfish. However, she was also injured, but she didn't care. When it came to fighting, no one in the Thug Academy was more ruthless than Xia Xiaochan. Xia Xiaochan's heart was pounding violently. In the end, I still used the majestic mystic spell. I won't go to the 251st floor. Han Fei nodded slightly. Not only was Xia Xiaochan injured, but he was also injured. The level 45 inferior manfish was not only good at soul attacks, but also very powerful. If he didn't use the majestic mystic spell, he was basically at a disadvantage. If it weren't for his thick skin, he would have been beaten down dozens of times. Even so, Han Fei's indestructible body was penetrated. After all, his opponent was no longer a dangling fisher. Of course, the harvest was actually very abundant. Xia Xiaochan harvested a soul crystal, and Han Fei harvested a demon spiritual fruit. Only then did Han Fei discover that the demon spiritual fruit didn't necessarily have to be dropped by the demon shattering vine. The inferior manfish could also drop the demon spiritual fruit. 2 days later, Han Fei's upper limit of spiritual energy was forcibly increased to 5,099 points in the battle. Later, whether he swallowed spiritual fruits or practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, he couldn't go any further. Therefore, Han Fei became an advanced dangling fisher. At this moment, Han Fei took off the hexagon starfish from his body, pressed it on Xia Xiaochan's shoulder, and said, "Master Hexagon Starfish, don't think about running away. You know how dangerous the level 3 fishery is. You can hide for 3 to 5 years, but can you hide for 30 to 50 years? There are many capable people here. When I see you next time, I will give you a great opportunity." The hexagon starfish's big eyes rolled. "I won't run." Han Fei grinned. "That's good. We don't catch you as a contractual spiritual beast, but others may not." With that, he stuffed 10 ultra-quality spiritual stones into Xia Xiaochan's hand. After explaining the use of the spiritual stones, he said, "Give one to Master Hexagon Starfish occasionally. Otherwise, we'll definitely talk about it every day." Then Han Fei fixed his eyes. "I'm going." Xia Xiaochan snorted. "Seeing that you are leaving, I'll give you another kiss." Han Fei knew that he probably wouldn't see Xia Xiaochan again in a short time after parting with her. Not to mention how difficult the 250th floor was. According to the rules, the 251st floor might be the most difficult place. In an entire level 3 fishery, Han Fei even felt that he might be the only one who came here. According to Xia Xiaochan's personality, she might wait for him, but not for too long. It was not that they were strangers, but that she simply thought that Han Fei could do it alone. During this period, he and Xia Xiaochan had discussed Luren Kuang and Zhang Xuanyu. According to their comprehensive speculation, the three of them definitely wouldn't have a good time. After all, he and Xia Xiaochan were now the top targets on the Dragon Boat's wanted list. Of course, Zhang Xuanyu and the others would also become the targets of people's attention. At this moment, on the 251st floor, Han Fei became a loner again. But it didn't matter if Master Hexagon Starfish was here or not, as long as there weren't any weird creatures that he couldn't deal with. However, the steps into the sea was quite humane and the difficulty was graded, so Han Fei didn't worry about this. Before going to the next floor again, Han Fei looked at the data again. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 39, advanced dangling fisher, spiritual energy greater than 128,526, 59.99, spiritual heritage level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 30, weapons blue sea wandering dragon daggers, water dividing seal, blood drinking knife, main art void breaking technique. Volume 4 of Void Fishing, Demon Level, Divine Quality. After this breakthrough, Han Fei's strength had greatly increased, and his upper limit of spiritual energy had directly increased by 900 points. What did 900 points of upper limit of spiritual energy mean? How long did it take him to reach the upper limit of 900 points of spiritual energy? But now, with just a breakthrough, it had increased so much. As a result, his physique had also become much stronger, and the embroidery needle in his hand had become more and more suitable for him. Han Fei grabbed a sea-swallowing seashell and began to sacrifice. In the blink of an eye, when Han Fei looked at the sea-swallowing seashell again, there was only a mid-quality bamboo left in it. Shoot! Han Fei was almost dumbfounded. Although he had expected that the number of sacrifices would increase from the 251st floor onward, he didn't expect it to be so high. Han Fei estimated that this stuffed sea-swallowing seashell was worth at least 5 million. However, he sacrificed it all at once. As the water rippled, Han Fei saw a shrimp head popping out with a long spike on it. Huh? It's not an inferior manfish? When the whole shrimp came out, Han Fei's pupils constricted slightly. A shrimp man? Han Fei suspected that he had misjudged it. I can understand if you're talking about an inferior manfish. There are a lot of them in all kinds of legends. In front of him was a standing shrimp man that was more than one. 5 meters tall. On his head, there was a conical shrimp shell, and the two eyes on the face were vertical on both sides of the head. The mouth was stacked several times, as if it had several mouths. On its body, it was also wearing a layer of pale yellow, slightly sparkling battle armor. This guy had 8 arms, and there was no telling whether its lower body was a leg or not, but it was similar to a leg, except that it didn't have feet. It was using a prawn tail as its feet, yet it could still stand up. But a shrimp man? Did he break into the East Ocean Dragon Palace? Now that a shrimp soldier had popped up, would a crab general show up later? Well, he participated in the battle in the heavenly desolate city. Han Fei once resisted the shrimp thorns at the city gate. At that time, he didn't think that those shrimps could be human beings. At this moment, Han Fei wondered if this shrimp man was the creature that shot the shrimp thorns back then. In his eyes, data appeared. Name: Shrimp Demon. Low-level sea demon. Introduction: a sea demon that has just matured intelligence, cruel and bloodthirsty. Because of its poor species, it may have evolved from any shrimp-type creature. It's extremely fast and good at one-shot kills. Level 45 Spiritual Energy 4413/4413 Demon Heritage Level 3 High Quality Level Awakened Associated Spirit Axe Crab Unabsorbable. Han Fei slightly narrowed his eyes. This thing might be more difficult to deal with than the inferior manfish. In any case, shrimps were generally more flexible than fish. It was the same for low-level fish and shrimps. He remembered that when he was in the ordinary fishery, the tentacle lobster was already a very powerful existence. While Han Fei was observing the shrimp man was also observing Han Fei. Then, Han Fei saw that 8 broken spears suddenly appeared in the shrimp man's 8 hands. Damn it, you can fight with 8 hands? Han Fei was lost for words. Was this cheating? Neza only had 6 hands, but you have 8? Hiu. Han Fei certainly wouldn't wait to be killed. More than 30 blue sea wandering dragon daggers floated in front of him, and he put his hands on his waist, ready to draw them. F***CKU. Han Fei felt that the shrimp man was cursing and suddenly charged at him with its 8 hands. Hiu. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers instantly swept at the shrimp man. However, the shrimp man's 8 hands were waving like phantoms, and the short spears in its hands were like sabers, knocking away the blue sea wandering dragon daggers in no time. Kacha! Han Fei had narrowed his eyes after only one clash. 2 of the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were broken, and the blood in his body surged. Is this thing really so powerful? Swoosh! Han Fei drew his daggers, and the aura of the daggers turned into dozens of meters long and slashed at the shrimp man. However, what shocked Han Fei even more was that the shrimp man's 8 hands slashed at the daggers as fast as lightning. At the same time, the shrimp man was retreating with the daggers very quickly. Han Fei looked at the attack speed that was as fast as a phantom. After hundreds of attacks, his draw technique was broken. Han Fei couldn't have felt better. You said you can withstand my sword drawing technique. I admit it. If you say you can play against me like Sun Mu, I'll accept it. However, you're nibbling away at my daggers bit by bit in such a way. I can't stand it anymore. It wasn't easy for me to practice the draw technique. Don't you want to humiliate me? Han Fei stomped on the ground and lunged forward. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers revolved crazily, and he performed the draw technique again. Han Fei sneered. Don't mention 8 hands. I'll grow 8 more for you. Come again if you can. The shrimp man seemed to be infuriated too. He darted out 3 short spears in a row and broke Han Fei's draw technique again. Then, another short spear was shot at Han Fei. Clink! A gigantic brick rose from the sky. Han Fei slapped away the stinger and smashed the whetstone at the shrimp man with all his strength. Crack! Han Fei only saw a sharp golden light piercing through the whetstone, and at this moment, there was a hole in the whetstone. Pooh! Han Fei was so shocked that he almost vomited a mouthful of blood. That's a high-quality spiritual weapon. Did I just poke a hole in your head? Bam! The shrimp man didn't feel any better either. He was blown away by Han Fei's brick and rolled hundreds of meters on the ground. However, what made Han Fei less confident was that the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were useless now. The blades only left white marks on the shrimp man's body. Usually, it would take dozens of slashes to break the shrimp man's armor. Die! Han Fei ignored the whetstone. At this moment, he was holding the water-dividing seal in his left hand and the needle in his right. He stabbed the shrimp man with the rod. An overwhelming spiritual energy burst out. Boom! The seawater exploded, and the shrimp man rolled dozens of times on the ground before it stood up. Han Fei didn't stop there. He smashed the shrimp man's head with the water-dividing seal. Why are you so fast? Why are your thorns hard? Why did you destroy my spiritual weapon? I'll smash you to death, you son of AB****. The shrimp man was stunned too. Why is this man so fearless when he is much weaker than me? Why is he smashing me? The shrimp man couldn't get up at all. Both the water-dividing seal and the needle were too heavy. Where did this guy get such a heavy weapon? After hammering for a while, 4 of the 8 hands were broken by Han Fei. This shrimp man had been smashed beyond recognition by Han Fei. Swish! A knife light flashed, and the shrimp man's head was split open by Han Fei. Han Fei had to take action, because he suddenly saw a person watching the scene 1,000 meters away. Han Fei didn't know what to do. He thought there was no one here. Just now, he was too busy fighting the shrimp man and didn't release his senses at all. He was almost approached by the shrimp man. After the shrimp man died, a demon's spiritual fruit appeared in front of Han Fei. He picked it up and threw it into Forge the Universe. At this moment, standing in the water, Han Fei looked straight at the man. Are you Chao Tian? First chapter, asking for votes. 5,500 words. End of this chapter. Chapter 473. Han Fei had thought that Chao Tian had probably left long ago. After all, he only reached the 208th floor last time. Unexpectedly, this guy had already reached the 251st floor. When he was on the 208th floor, Han Fei thought that Chao Tian might be just SOSO. But when he reached the 251st floor, Han Fei naturally changed his opinion. Han Fei knew very well how strong the lobster demon was just now. The lobster demon turned his invincible blue sea wandering dragon daggers into a decoration. He couldn't even kill it with the draw technique. If that thing was placed on the 200th floor, it would probably be able to sweep away a group of experts. Do you know me? Chao Tian swam over, which surprised Han Fei. From what Chao Chiu said, he had always felt that Chao Tian was a cold, fierce, arrogant, and aloof genius who didn't like to talk much. However, this Chao Tian was tall and strong, with a broad face and thick eyebrows and a vague smile on his face. He was wearing a battle suit, but Han Fei almost thought that it was a regular robe at first glance. Huh? What an ordinary person. Han Fei frowned. Are you really Chao Tian? Chao Tian nodded with a silly smile. Yes, I've never seen you before. You're not from the city. Han Fei was briefly stunned. Yes, I'm not from the city. I'm from the countryside. Chao Tian scratched his head awkwardly. That's not what I meant. Seeing Chao Tian's behavior, Han Fei was even more confused. This guy didn't fit the image of a top heavenly talent from the 1,000-star city at all. Wherever Tengu stood, it would be very suitable. He was cold, domineering, and carried a big halberd. This Chao Tian didn't hold anything in his hands. His hands were just hanging there, and he would smirk now and then. This guy didn't look like an expert at all. After a moment of silence, Han Fei asked, Are you done? Chao Tian nodded with a smile. I'm done. Han Fei was confused. Then why don't you go to the next floor? Chao Tian replied frankly, I'm practicing my fist speed. Huh? Han Fei was briefly stunned. Practicing your fist speed? How long had you been here? Chao Tian smiled. 3 days. Han Fei couldn't help but say, Don't you want to know other opportunities on the steps into the sea? You treat it as a training ground? Chao Tian said bluntly, Opportunities will come when they come. But you smell like Chiu Chiu. When it came to Chao Chiu, Chao Tian's eyes lit up. He looked at Han Fei as if waiting for an answer. Han Fei grinned. Didn't Chao Chiu say that he was not on good terms with you? Chao Tian smiled bitterly. He doesn't like me, but he's my brother. No one can touch him, not a single one. What do you have to do with Chiu Chiu? I promised Chao Chiu that I would help him kill Sun Mu. Yang Diu, Li Hai Li Baijiu, and Yi Baiyu. What do you think my relationship with him is? When Chao Tian heard this, he immediately became honest again. That's right, that's Chiu Chiu. Then you can go. Goodbye. Han Fei. Han Fei was speechless. What the hell is going on? Hey, don't you know that Chao Chio wants to kill you the most? Chao Tian grinned. Yes, I do. Han Fei asked why. I'm quite curious. Chao Tian's smile became even wider. He just said it. Xiao never kills people. As for why he didn't tell you, you don't need to know. Han Fei snorted. I don't want to know. At this moment, he should be on the 201st floor with 2 swords. Chao Tian turned around and nodded. Then he should have gone back. Seeing Chao Tian's straightforwardness, Han Fei was taken aback for a moment and then smiled. This elder brother really knows his younger brother. Not only Chao Tian, but Han Fei also felt that Chao Chio had gone back. With his weak strength, he had to rely on his spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts to go to the 151st floor, not to mention the 201st floor. Han Fei wasn't sure whether Chao Tian was pretending to be stupid or he was really like this. However, Han Fei suddenly had a bad idea and shouted, Hey, Chao Tian. Chao Tian looked back. What's up? Han Fei smiled. Chao Chio asked me to kill you, and I took some money from him. Since I'm paid, I have to do things for him. Let's not talk about whether I can beat you or not. Now that I've met you, I have to fight you, right? Chao Tian smiled. Okay. Han Fei also smiled. Okay, then let's make a move. After that, you practice your fists, and I'll look for my opportunities. How about that? Chao Tian nodded. Okay, fair enough. It wasn't that Han Fei wanted to fight, but that he wanted to know how strong Chao Tian, who was said to be a god, was. So Han Fei directly used the majestic mystic spell. The seawater around him trembled, and terrifying energy flowed on the surface of his body. Chao Tian didn't seem to be slow either. However, Chao Tian didn't use any weapons, but stood on the ground, slightly bowed, and as soon as he clenched his fists, the seawater beside him exploded. Swish! Huh! As soon as the light of the draw technique appeared, Chao Tian punched out like a dragon, and a roar exploded in the seawater. Boom! With just one blow, the seawater within 100 meters surged. Han Fei retreated hundreds of meters, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Chao Tian was a little better than Han Fei, only retreating less than a dozen meters. However, there was a knife mark on his fist, so deep that the bone could be seen. After a while, Chao Tian put away his fist and said with a smile, I lost. I used 13 punches. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. What the F***CK? Was that the speed of his punches just now? Why did I only see 7 punches? Goodbye. Han Fei put away the blood-drinking knife, said these words, and went straight to the next floor. He was already very sure that Chao Tian was strong, very strong. Undoubtedly, whether it was Yang Diyu, Sun Mu, or Yi Baiyu, none of them was a match for Chao Tian. With that blow just now, even if it was Sun Mu's immortal slaying formation, he could still break it. However, Chao Tian only used 13 punches and broke it. This was not a matter of how many punches he had, but that he could only fight evenly with Chao Tian after using the majestic mystic spell as an advanced dangling fisher. No, although Chao Tian said that he lost, Han Fei didn't really think that he had won. Han Fei was very sure that Chao Tian should have more powerful trump cards. This was not a good feeling. After roughly understanding Chao Tian's strength, Han Fei realized that he was not invincible yet, so there was no need to fight anymore. As soon as he entered the 252nd floor, Han Fei didn't go to sacrifice, but directly entered Forge the Universe. In the battle against the Lobster Demon, just now, Han Fei knew that the Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Daggers had no advantage at all. Besides, since he explored the Level 3 fishery, he had lost dozens of Blue Sea Wandering Dragon Daggers. This obviously showed that mid-quality spiritual weapons could no longer keep up with Han Fei's needs. Han Fei needed a new set of knives. Originally, Han Fei planned to refine a set of million knife art with the remaining materials after he finished the steps into the sea. However, it seemed that he had to refine them in advance. There were a total of 386 pieces of ultra-quality materials, plus more than 2,900 pieces of high-quality materials, not to mention 142 high-quality spiritual weapons and 68 high-quality battlesuits. This was a terrible number. It was so terrible that if he refined all these things into ultra-quality weapons, he would lose the more than 200 million points of spiritual energy he had. Of course, Han Fei was reluctant to spend so many spiritual weapons at once. His bottom line was to use 1/3. After all, Han Fei needed more than weapons. In the future, after he became a dangling fisher, he would need 100 million points of spiritual energy just to deduce the 5th level of void fishing. This forced him to be frugal and forge the universe. Han Fei threw materials into the demon purification pot numbly. One day later, 24 ultra-quality spiritual sabers were refined, consuming 12 million points of spiritual energy. 3 days later, another 72 ultra-quality spiritual sabers were refined, consuming 36 million points of spiritual energy. When Han Fei refined the 99th ultra-quality spiritual saber, only 8 of the 386 ultra-quality materials and 1,798 high-quality materials were left. Another day later, Han Fei walked out of Forge the Universe, wearing a green ultra-quality battle suit, with 99 ultra-quality spiritual sabers floating around him, an ultra-quality whetstone in his left hand, the blood-drinking knife on his waist, an ultra-quality fishing rod on his back, and the blue sea wandering dragon bow on his right hand had also changed. It was also ultra-quality. The name hadn't changed, and Han Fei didn't bother to think about it. Han Fei grinned. Now, what I'm wearing should be comparable to Cao Qiu's, right? Han Fei even felt that his clothes might be more valuable than Cao Qiu's. From this moment on, his equipment had been replaced with cannons. Of course, the price Han Fei paid was not small. This time, the large-scale weapon refining consumed a total of 52 million points of spiritual energy. Originally, Han Fei wondered if he should melt the high-quality spiritual weapons and refine them into ultra-quality spiritual weapons. But then he realized that not only was his spiritual energy consumed, but his wealth was also being consumed rapidly. Obviously, this was not a good deal. So Han Fei didn't do it. At this moment, Han Fei was holding a swallowing seashell in his hand and grinned. Sacrifice. In front of Han Fei was a level 46 inferior manfish. At this moment, knife light and mystic light were everywhere. The power of the million knife art was undoubtedly revealed at this moment. An inferior manfish of the hanging fisher level couldn't approach Han Fei at all at this moment. In just a moment, this inferior manfish had no less than 100 wounds all over its body. No matter how strong it was, whenever it got close, Han Fei would knock it back with a backhand brick. Han Fei wasn't sure if the appearance of the lobster demon was a coincidence. After meeting the lobster demon on the 251st floor, he had already reached the 278th floor. During this period, he encountered a lobster demon once, a demon-shattering vine 3 times, and an inferior manfish once. There were only 2 kinds of items left, namely soul crystals and demon spiritual fruits. Soul crystals were relatively rare, and demon spiritual fruits were the most common. Out of the 10 sacrifices, he gave demon spiritual fruits 8 times. Han Fei had eaten almost 30 demon spiritual fruits and felt more and more refreshed. But because he didn't have any soul crystals, he didn't know how much more his perception range could be increased. However, he vaguely had a feeling that his perception range could be increased soon. On the 281st floor, Han Fei sacrificed nearly 2 swallowing seashells to summon a creature. Han Fei's eyelids shivered when he saw the creature. A mermaid. Han Fei felt that his eyes were dazzled, and then an ugly woman appeared in front of him. At this moment, the mermaid was baring her teeth. Those weren't teeth at all. They were a row of hacksaws, and the teeth were terrifyingly sharp. However, different from the inferior manfish, the creature before him had much clearer facial features. She had a flat nose, human eyes, and vertical pupils. Her forehead was a little wrinkled, but she had long, flowing hair that reached her waist. The problem was her body. Her upper body was mostly covered in fish scales, and only a small part of her body was similar to human skin. As for her lower body, it was really a fish tail. a blue tail with glittering scales. Shoot, it's really a mermaid. Data appeared in his eyes. Name, half mermaid, regular sea demon. Introduction, a sea demon that has just awakened intelligence. It's a species that opposes human beings and is good at mermaid tactics. Because of the different tactics they practice, their combat characteristics are different. Level 46, Spiritual Energy 1, 221/4, 611, Demon Heritage, Level 4, Low Quality, Level, Becoming a Demon, Companion Spirit, Ice Pattern Lobster, Unabsorbable. Han Fei was stunned. This thing was much more advanced than the inferior manfish. It could be seen from its demon heritage alone. The most powerful inferior manfish he had seen so far only had a Level 3, high-quality demon heritage. However, this half-mermaid had already reached Level 4. Also, why was this thing called a half-mermaid? Could it be that there were complete mermaids? If there was, then would a complete mermaid be like the one in the legend? With a beautiful face, flowing long hair, jade-like arms, and a flawless body? Gulp. Han Fei didn't dare to imagine how beautiful that picture would be. When he was in the undersea city, Han Fei saw the inferior manfish for the first time. In this steps into the sea, he saw the legendary mermaid. No matter whether she was beautiful or not, he could call her that. He felt that such a race probably existed outside the Level 3 fishery. At this moment, Han Fei wondered what kind of place the unknown place was. Were there many of such races in that place? Han Fei found that when he was in the Level 1 and Level 2 fishery, he didn't feel it. However, after arriving at the Level 3 fishery, he seemed to be getting closer to the real ocean step by step. If the 3-level fishery was only the territory of human beings, then the 3-level fishery was the territory of human beings. Then was the unknown place a forbidden place that human beings couldn't encircle? Suddenly, a voice brought Han Fei back to himself. Human race. When a mermaid saw Han Fei, she panicked at first, then looked around at the environment, and finally spat out these 2 words to Han Fei in an extremely hoarse voice. That kind of voice was very strange, with a strange vibration, as if saying the word human was extremely difficult for this mermaid. Han Fei was shocked. You can still speak? Hiss! The mermaid stopped talking as if speaking was very difficult for her. So she opened her mouth and hissed at Han Fei with her full mouth full of sharp teeth. As the mermaid hissed, her hair, her tail, and the scales on her arms were all shaking. Ah! Suddenly, a series of strange sound waves burst out from the mermaid's mouth. Round after round, Han Fei, who was caught off guard, was directly blasted hundreds of meters away by the terrifying sound waves. He felt that his ears were warm, and they were bleeding because of the strange sound waves. Damn it, what the hell is this? Han Fei didn't dare to be careless, because the mermaid had already rushed over an extremely fast speed, and her weird swimming posture reminded Han Fei of a snake demon. However, the snake demon in the Calabash Brothers was very beautiful and alluring. However, this mermaid, if one didn't look at her face and only looked at her body, she might really be an enchanting creature. But once one looked at her face and the scales on her body, she was no longer enchanting. Han Fei was slightly stunned, and then he saw thousands of scales and darts shooting at him, turning into streams of light. Seeing that the opponent was so fierce and was determined to kill him, Han Fei didn't dare to be careless at all. In an instant, 100 knives were shot out, and thousands of knives rolled up like a long dragon, colliding with those scales in the blink of an eye. Clank, clank, clank. A large number of scales were blasted away. However, Han Fei didn't see the mermaid stop at all. Instead, it sped up. Hoop! In the seawater, Han Fei saw a tide of different colors surging at him. An ultra-quality spiritual weapon was fierce enough, wasn't it? However, when it was pounced on by this surging tide, it became unstable and its speed was less than 1/3 of its normal speed. Wow, what kind of weird abilities are these? As soon as Han Fei took out the blood-drinking knife and activated the majestic mystic spell, he slashed at it with a swish. The blue tide was cut in half, and the terrifying knife light slashed straight at the mermaid. Ah! There was another wave of terrifying screams, and Han Fei hurriedly dodged. So, Han Fei saw that his attack with all his strength turned into an ordinary knife light and fell on the mermaid. Damn it, it's so strong. In the blink of an eye, the blood-drinking knife didn't do anything. With a thought, Han Fei turned the surrounding seawater into knives. The infinity water. He didn't know what level it was or whether it was a weapon, but Han Fei knew that it was his strongest trump card present. If even the infinity water couldn't kill the opponent, Han Fei could only exhaust the opponent to death by consuming spiritual energy. When the infinity water covered the mermaid, Han Fei could hear her roar. Then, a big lobster appeared. Unfortunately, the lobster only appeared for a while before it was crushed by the infinity water. When the seawater gurgled with blood, Han Fei put away the infinity water. The mermaid, together with the big lobster with a broken carapace, lay dying in the water. Han Fei walked up to her. To be honest, I'm in a complicated mood now. Logically speaking, I don't have any aversion to intelligent creatures. But why do you have such a strong, killing intent against human beings? Hiss! The mermaid lay on the ground, her scales all shattered, and her whole body was covered with knife wounds. But even at this moment, she still tried to bare her teeth at Han Fei. After nearly 100 minutes, the mermaid slowly died. Han Fei stood next to her during the whole process. Just now, Han Fei sensed intense hatred, especially the look in her eyes. Although it was slightly different from human eyes, the intense hatred in her eyes could be sensed even by an idiot. After the mermaid disappeared, the water ball popped up. Han Fei saw that it was no longer a demon's spiritual fruit, but a translucent bright blue crystal. Data popped up in his eyes. Name Life Stone Introduction. This is a strange stone that may be born when the Sea Clan dies. It contains tremendous vitality. Ordinary people can live 100 years longer. Dangling fishers can live 10 years longer. Hanging fishers and hidden fishers can live 1 year longer. Oh my God! Han Fei was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a thing before. Ordinary people could live 100 years longer. Dangling fishers could live 10 years longer. This thing must be a priceless treasure. Han Fei wasn't sure how much this thing that could be produced was worth. It was life. If this was seen by others, it would definitely be priceless. Even if they could buy it, they wouldn't be able to afford it. Han Fei reached out to grab the life stone. However, the moment he touched it, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Shoot! Han Fei looked down, only to see that the demon purification pot had come out. The second chapter, asking for votes. The author said, there are only 2 chapters today, but they're both 2-in-1 chapters. It's not an explosion. The plot of the Steps into the Sea is coming to an end. End of this chapter.